Alright, hello and welcome back to Gamers Week in Gaming. My name is Myre and this was totally not planned. What do you mean? I'm meant to be producing this thing. Leah's meant to do the intro. She's over here.
Myre always puts me in the hot seat and makes. Why can I hear your stream? Hang on a minute, what's happening? What have you done? Is this you? Is this your audio? Why can I hear myself?
I have no idea. Why can you hear yourself? Could you hear yourself before?
No, maybe I just have a tab open or something. Doesn't matter. Anyway, welcome to GWIG. Okay. Yeah, like I made Myre do the intro because he always makes me do the intro. So I said today, you're doing the intro, and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So what have you been up to? What's your gamer week in gaming looking like?
My week in gaming has been, well, I mean, actually not that much gaming, actually. Like, this week I've been doing mostly Star Citizen again, but like, a lot of it's been like voice acting stuff again. I've been like learning how to do like, throat singing. That's been interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I've been doing this weekly thing, like Mongolian throat singing, like Tuvan throat singing, Inuit stuff. It's been interesting. It's been interesting. Yeah. Because like
been opening your horizons.
Yeah, because it ties into so much stuff. Like it ties into, I want to say, like just vocal extreme work as well, because a lot of that uses the same kind of toolkit, the false vocal cords and stuff.
And you also shaved your beard live on stream.
Yeah, I also shaved my beard live on stream for Movember, simply because I was like, it's November. I haven't done anything this November for like, charity or this, that, the other. And, like, men's mental health is a kind of thing that isn't necessarily something that's talked about much. And I was like, well, I haven't done anything for it. I haven't raised money for it. The least I can do is shave my mustache and then say, that's the reason, right? That's awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, she says, incredibly convinced.
Yeah, it was more that we all just got a notification that Myre's immediately shaving his beard on stream, so then we had to run and figure out what was happening, and he was doing it on the stream, the madman. And now he's got just a mustache left.
I mean, initially I wasn't gonna do it, right? Like I had it in mind that I was maybe perhaps thinking about doing it, and then Brad rated me, and I was like, yeah, I was actually considering doing this thing for November, and he was like, how much? And I guess, yeah, he basically got the ball rolling because otherwise I wasn't gonna do anything. And yeah, honestly, I think it's not a bad look. It's not horrific.
That's fine. You could honestly, I feel like you could pull off anything. It's disgusting. All of our friends agree. We were all like, it was like just shaving bits off, like one bit at a time, and everyone was like, "Why are you making this look good? It's not fair." So there you go. Everyone's jealous.
Well, I'll keep it for a while, maybe. I think I've had like, so on a bit of a tangent here from Gamers Week in Gaming, I know, but I've had like a bit of how would you say, like a couple of eras? Is that what they call them now, right? Like,
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So initially, like,
chapters.
I used to just be like, yeah, chapters. I used to be like, completely clean shaven, and then like when I started streaming, I started growing nothing but just the chin, because I think at the time maybe that's all I could do, or like all I could dare to grow out. It was just the chin, primarily because I was watching Luke Cage. On Netflix,
okay.
and there's this one offshot character who had that look, some like old dude, and I was like, that's a cool look, and so that was all it took, and
that was it. You were influenced instantly.
Yeah. Until like I realized this is a kind of a goofy look, and then I just kind of got bored with it, I guess, and then so I grew out the full beard, kind of a laziness thing, honestly, and then yeah, now we're here. And I think I can't go backwards. I can't go back into full beard. So I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, because you've not shaved it in a very long time, right? So you don't know how long it's going to take to grow out fully. I
mean, the last time I shaved completely was 2017. Yeah. So I know more or less like how long it will take. But it's just a matter of like, if I wanted to go full beard, I've already done that. That's like a certain time frame of Myre is that. So now I have to go forwards and I have to find something else.
Okay. And now we enter the new era of Myre.
That's right.
Well, I have been playing games.
I thought you were going to talk about your facial hair for a second. I mean,
I've also been growing a mustache.
Okay. I mean, as far as gaming goes, I mean, I did the voice thing, but also like, well, I've been reading a lot. this week. I've been reading like the
Oh yeah, you posted. You've been reading the Warhammer stuff.
yeah. I've just about finished the
You said you
third
read
book.
the omnibus.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of reading. That's not a little amount of reading.
I
That's a lot of
mean,
book.
so like, there's 3 books within the omnibus, I believe, which is like the salamanders thing. Like, it's weird. It's like there are 8 books, and then within those 8 books, there are 3 books that are called the trilogy, and they're also part of the salamander. It's weird, but I've read like 4 books now, and I'm like, what do I want to do next? How is this gaming related? It's Warhammer, and yeah, the salamander stuff. And I was thinking, what do I want to do next? I either continue reading Warhammer, like some kind of nerd, or I continue reading like The Witcher, like some kind of nerd. And I need like direction. I need to know what I do next.
I think you just full send the Warhammer, honestly.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I mean, you already started it. Why not? You're already in there. You're in the zone.
I suppose we put it like that. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Might as well. Otherwise, you got to flip flop. I'm not very good at flip flopping like that. I have to go all in. So.
Spoken like someone who completes projects.
Well.
Well.
Anyway.
So what was your game? What's your week look like then?
Looking at both my backlog of games and my current DIY lounge situation. I finished watching Arcane, which we'll talk about.
All right.
Obviously, I've been playing a lot of League of Legends again. I am getting better at it, is one thing. So this week, I noticed that I'm getting better at League of Legends.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot of support role, and I've been having a lot of fun.
Challenger win.
Admittedly, yeah, well, exactly. Admittedly, the support roles I've been playing have been more DPS support, like Swain.
Okay.
I've been a Swain main for the last 2 weeks. But we're improving. The game sense is getting better. Ignite's all coming together slowly. So I feel a little bit better about myself. I also just downloaded, I just bought for my phone, Balatro. So I played Balatro on Steam, but sorry, I should not be fiddling with things that make a lot of noise while we're in a podcast.
Yeah, I can't fix that in post.
No. I play Balatro on Steam a little bit. But I picked it up on mobile because I've been on trains a lot lately, and I've not really had much to occupy my time. And I remembered that I'm really bad at poker when I couldn't get past the first easy blind for a while. I was like, oh, this is tragic. We got there in the end. I just couldn't remember what I was doing. I was like, oh, how does poker work again?
You need to do more Wild RP training, huh?
Apparently so, yeah. Well, the thing with Wild RP when I did poker was that I was always, people didn't believe me when I was like, it's just blind luck, but every single time I played poker in Wild RP, I'd win, and it was literally always just luck. And everyone was always like, you're lying. You clearly know how to play this, and I'm like, no.
She's still playing the long con, guys.
Yeah, okay. So I've played a little bit of Balatro. I've been playing a bit of Final Fantasy 14. I'm in Stormblood. I've got to be honest, I'm falling asleep. I hate it a lot.
Yeah?
I'm gonna have to maybe finish Stormblood off stream just to get through it, because otherwise I need to like just skip some dialogue and get through it. Otherwise I'm gonna lose my mind.
For me in Stormblood, it's been interesting because like when I played it, I didn't play it on stream, but because of that, I was able to like, have videos on the side and really just chew at it. Like that, like World of Warcraft, like the guy at the computer leaned back and stuff. That was me playing it. And I did every single side quest in every single zone because I was waiting for PB and Trench to like catch up, and so I needed something to do. But I still kind of enjoyed it because it was just a thing I was doing whilst also like doing other things.
Community though, like if you know that you're waiting for your friends to play with you, there's something to be said for the fact that you enjoy it a bit more because like you've got that friendship vibe going on. I guess because I've been playing it solo, I've not really because I've been playing it solo, I've not really been enjoying it, and I don't know, just it's been a bit meh. So I need to just get through it, because apparently the second half of Stormblood is much better than the first half. The first half is a bit meh, so I'm still in like the first third of it. So I just need to get through it, and then I can hopefully it'll pick up. But yeah, actually yesterday I was in a Fortnite tournament.
Oh yeah.
I played some Fortnite last week as well. So I was invited to this tournament at the O2 Arena in London, and it was just like a bunch of content creators, and then they had a competition with O2 where the winner of the competition would be paired with some of the creators or streamers. So I don't know how they decided it all, but I was paired with one of the winners. And I was really scared because like people who play Fortnite are serious about it, man, and I've not played much Fortnite in the last like year or so. I played a lot when it first came out, but I haven't played much. And so I was like, oh, what if they paired me with someone who's like really good and really competitive? And they're like, why have they paired me with the really bad player? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because you could win. There was a serious prize. You could win $5,000 ring was the which I like my ring.
A
So
ring?
I was, yeah. So there was a collaboration they did. They actually gave us the full set of jewelry, which was pretty cool. But they did a collaboration with a brand in the US called King Ice.
Okay.
And they have a jewelry set. So there's like a big loot llama like chain, which I got. There's some bracelets with like the Healy the banana and the cuddle team leader, and a llama ring, as well as a llama necklace. So the ring that they had was the same one they gave all of us, which is like a gold llama ring with like a crown.
Okay.
But the one they gave the winners was encrusted in jewels. So it was pretty cool.
Okay.
It was a nice, it was interesting.
That's kind of neat. That's kind of neat. So
yeah,
there was
I
no
think it's pretty
prize
fun.
money involved, just expensive
No, it was
things.
just bragging rights and a nice ring.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's just for like fun, really, for content.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the person they paired me with ended up being super lovely, and we just like memed it out, really. We
They
were
hate
like,
you,
well,
right?
no, genuinely, they were really, really nice. We got along so well. And we came 16th out of 20. So, it could have been worse. Could have been better. We got killed pretty quickly by the winners both times. So, and the winners were like, they were sweating, man. They were trying. So it was like, okay. But no, it was just nice. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was a big thing. Like, we were on stage. There's like a bunch of PCs on the stages. There was like 40 competitors. So that's like 40 PC and streaming setups that everybody's on.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense, really, to set up. But it was a fun time, I guess. Yeah.
That's super cool. I love events like that.
Yeah, I like events where it's pretty simple. Because what I don't like is where it's like, you get a lot of branded deals where it's like super complicated. Like, everything's just, we need you to do this 5-step program to our branded like event that we're doing, and it's just like so much. But no, this was pretty chill.
Yeah.
And it seemed to go fairly smoothly.
Awesome. She's seething, guys. She wanted that first place. You
I
can tell.
wanted that ring. Well, in fairness, the ring would have been too big for me, because the winner, when she tried it on, she had it on her thumb and it was like still too big for her. And I was like,
no,
I've got little tiny baby fingers. So I was like, it's not gonna. The ring that they gave us didn't fit me either. I gave it to my agent in the end, because I was like, it will actually fit you, so you might as well have it.
Wear it as a necklace or something,
Well, one of the necklaces they gave us was just that ring on the necklace.
Oh.
So I was like, well, I've got that, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty chill. But that was my week. That was my gamers week in gaming. We have a lot to talk about, though.
We have a lot to talk about. Like, it's been a week. Where do we even start? Because like the Game Awards nominees alone is gonna be like an hour or something, I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Well, get settled in, guys. It's a big one. It's a big one. Let's start with let's just start with the Game Awards then. Let's start by talking about the nominees. Now, the nominees came in the night of our last GWIG, so they've been out for a week now. People have probably seen them, but let's talk about them anyway and give some opinions.
All right, opinions. Gonna press the stinger for gaming news. There we go. Badam. There we go.
So there obviously was controversy, which we predicted and we talked about last week, and that will continue to be the case. But the Game Awards the voting closes on December 12th, so you've got like 2 weeks to vote if you want to. You can actually have a say in this. You do get to vote and have your say heard.
Yeah.
And actually, it will be streamed. So it's going to be midnight, I think, where it is live.
It's going to be late, but I mean, if you wanted to watch it live,
we should do a quick watch along.
Yeah, okay. Yeah! All right, it's on then. Sick.
So let's have a look. So the full list of nominees for Game of the Year, we've got Astrobot, which I haven't played yet, but it's on my list. Elatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, the controversial one.
Because it's a DLC.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphoria Fantasio. So those are the Game of the Year nominees. Obviously, notably, there's no Warhammer, there's no Helldivers, 2 big games this year.
Yeah.
There's no Silent Hill 2. There's no, what else came out this year?
There's no Pal World.
There's no Pal World, yeah. Which goes to show that the cultural impact is maybe not as...
I would
I don't
argue
know.
about cultural impact because the people
Hmm.
on the list doing the nominations and stuff, they're not necessarily quintessential gaming like groups, you know? I mean, like you have people like NPR and Pride putting games up for nomination and voting on them. So I don't think that's necessarily the case. If
Is that
anything,
how it works? I mean, I know when I've been involved in the past as a
mm,
jury, so it's basically like a bunch of people from different backgrounds, like journalists or content creators or developers of
yeah,
like games, obviously that aren't in the running, and various other like disciplines all come together and talk about them and then put
right.
up games. So I don't really know how much sway certain groups or companies would have in that,
To
but
be
I don't know
fair, I'm
about this
not sure about
specific
nominations,
list.
but I know that that's how the voting works in particular. They had the list of
Mm,
everybody who was going to be voting, and they took them down because obviously people talking about it, and it's not necessarily the kind of how would you say light they wanted. But
no.
up on the list, that like there were groups that aren't necessarily gaming groups out there, which will have 90% of the sway. We can vote, as you mentioned, up until the 12th of December. However, like I believe that the gamers vote, the popular vote, only makes up 10% of all judgments. However, that will mean that like ties will be broken that way. So there will
Mm.
still be some weight to it, even though like I guess the general population are not going to be the actual voice of the Game
Which is
Awards per
totally
se.
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, like on the one hand, I get that it is very easy to manipulate a public vote if you're
Mm-hmm.
not careful, and for it to be, if it has a big weight, then it's easy for that to be not representative. But then, how representative is a group of people who get to decide?
Right. Because
You know,
biases
it's
exist everywhere. It's just a matter
right,
of what bias
exactly.
it is.
But when you look at the vested interest in a population of people to gather together to vote against a specific game or for a specific game, there is more motivation and drive there than it would be normal that a group of gamers are all just like individually like, what did I think the best game of the year is? It's so
Right.
much easier these days to mobilize based on whatever it's
Based
pissing
on
you off at the
meme.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and meme and everything else. So it's hard really to get a real idea of like there isn't the typical critic crowd is not trusted anymore.
Right. For
Content
sure.
creator, creator crowd isn't particularly trusted
Not
anymore,
really.
and the general populace isn't necessarily representative of the quiet majority who are just playing games. So
Exactly.
it's like there's really no winning, I think, when it comes to this.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I agree with the fact that the public vote is so little. Like I think it should be more than 10%, certainly, like maybe
Yeah.
30 to 40%, but
I think it's a perfectly fair analysis, honestly. Like, just because like nobody really, eh, you could say that the gamers should be the voice of it. However, at the same time, I mean, like, and I agree, right? It's way too easy to like manipulate a vote based on meme appeal. Like, if
Mhm.
you've seen like smaller things, like there's a contest. I'm gonna use Star Citizen for instance. Like as an example, right? Every year they have a let's vote on what our favorite ships are this year, and then the winner gets like a skin and this, that, the other, right?
Mhm.
And like 2 years ago, like just because people thought it would be funny, like the smallest, shittiest ship won and became number
Yeah.
one, you know?
Yeah. It's
So,
like Boaty McBoatface.
exactly.
Any time there is a public vote, there is so clearly going to be some sort of agenda, which I hate the word agenda because it seems to be used um, in just extremely dog whistle ways. But
Yeah.
there's always going to be an agenda. So
Mm-hmm.
like, who gets pushed and why? There's nothing organic these days about that voting process, which is really sad. I think social media has kind of ruined that with the growth of gaming.
I
I don't know if
agree.
that's just an inevitability of like what happens when you reach like critical mass. Like there's just so many people who are interested and involved that suddenly it's really hard for people to not coordinate. That's just human nature, is to gather communities and then coordinate those communities to influence things.
Yeah.
But anyway, even so, so the Game of the Year nominees, we've got quite a good spread there. We've got
Yeah.
Balatro and Astrobot, relatively, well, two new IPs. One of them a major indie game, and Astrobot, I don't know if that is technically an indie game. It's certainly out of their field. It's not like a AAA anticipated game. I
Yeah.
don't know much about the developers though.
It is a Sony Interactive Entertainment
Mm-hmm.
game. I don't know about Team Asobi necessarily, but I think that it's like an in-house thing.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, I haven't played it. I don't have a PS5, but like I've heard nothing but good things about it. Like the
I've
way
heard
people talk
fantastic
about it,
things.
like reminds me of how people talked about like Mario Galaxy back in the day.
Mm.
Like wow, this is the defining game of the console for some reason. So yeah.
Whereas Balatro has what I will maybe not fair to equivocate, but compared
Hmm.
to Vampire Survivors, it's
Okay.
an indie game with like a similar style, except for Balatro is very like Vampire Survivors harken to a nostalgia, right? It harkened
Yeah.
to like a very old school like roguelike sort of style. Balatro is a very unique. You can't compare the gameplay to anything else. It's completely new, which
It's
is
a
rare.
Balatro-like.
It's a Balatro, like yeah,
Incredibly
but
rare.
at the same time, it's poker, right? So it's just
Yeah.
poker video gamified. So it's very unique in that I think it's one of the first games that really harnessed this concept of moving a really classic game into something that took off. But in saying that, I actually disagree with myself. I don't think that's true at all. I think
Okay.
it's just one of the best games that did it well, and
Yeah.
it really took off because of it.
This year. I mean, you've had games
yeah.
like Among Us, for instance, like that kind of took
Right.
something, of a theme, like a mafia, this, that, the other, but like turned it into something that on its own back would never have been super popular, but obviously, like, people out there found it, discovered it exactly, and it did pick off or kick off even.
I was thinking that about. I was thinking that about music, actually, about how much fantastic music can be produced, and it's like pop. It could be pop anthem music.
Yeah.
But unless it gets a certain amount of people to be interested in it and to promote it, it's not going to reach that status, right? What I was thinking about was Chapel Roan specifically, because like her album really took off this year, but actually the album wasn't new this year. It'd been out already for a year,
right?
But it was this year that it really blew up, and people started seeing those pop anthems within the album, and it's like you can hear them and listen to them and go, yeah, this has the potential to be a big tune. But unless it's found by enough people who are interested, it's not going to blow up to that case.
Yeah,
and I think the same could be said about games like Balatro, where it's like it has you can tell it has so much potential, but it does require that audience to see that and like pick up on it, right time, right place, all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
There's just such a sheer volume of just like things and games in general, to be fair. What actually happens in that case? Like, let's say, for instance, like, Among Us was released 3 years before it became like popular over COVID. Could it still become Game of the Year? Because like, I'm talking 3 years ago, Game Awards. Could it have become Game of the Year if it was discovered 3 years after it came out?
I don't remember if it got nominated.
Yeah.
I think.
Could it? Because it was 3 years old, right?
It depends on their criteria. I think each award show has different criteria. So in this case, it would depend if their criteria came out this year or just was popular this year. So maybe not, just dependent. But yeah, I mean, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, obviously DLC, big drama about whether DLC should be considered for Game of the Year, considering Elden Ring won Game of the Year a couple of years back for the original offering. So, Black Myth Wukong, if I think it was up for the popular vote, it would be simply Black Myth Wukong that won that. Final Fantasy Rebirth has my personal vote just based on the scale of the game, and obviously I'm a huge fan. Don't look at my background, so it's quite obvious. Yeah, I'm a little bit biased, but I thought Rebirth was fantastic. I think it was an achievement what they managed to do with that game. And Metaphor ReFantasia, I mean, that seems to hit off really well with the audience they were aiming it for. So another good game.
I intend to play it. I know how long a game it is, and it's kind of daunting because like I'm one of those people like if I do pick up a game, I tend not to drop it. I'm pretty obsessive that way. It kind of gets in the way of other things. I have a very addictive personality, and I know this is
me with League of Legends right now.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
So I just know that like with a game like that, I should probably stay away unless I can guarantee that I have time to play it. But yeah,
guarantee you can justify playing it enough,
exactly,
like, streaming it and stuff.
Yeah, that's the issue, really.
But that's the Game of the Year nominees. I mean, I think it's a toss-up, really. It could go. Again, and I've actually said this 3 years in a row. Wow, what an unprecedented year for video games. But like once again, we've had what a freaking incredible year for games. Like genuinely, I know it's so easy for people to be like, well, actually, this is woke and that was bad and this was actually bad when you think about it and blah blah blah. But like when you actually look at the list of nominees and the people that weren't included, like Warhammer was. Okay, sure, maybe not quite Game of the Year material. It was more niche. It wasn't like it didn't bring anything new to the table, but it was still a damn good experience.
It was fun as hell, dude. Really yeah, 3 players, so good.
Yeah, I mean, so many games that weren't even nominated here, and a lot of games that came out like random hit games like Pacific Drive came out this year. There's like a lot of little things that people kind of enjoyed a lot that won't get nods, but we are, I don't know, we are in, I don't want to say golden age of gaming. I think perhaps
I
a
think
lot of
that's
people
long
would fight against
gone,
that.
honestly.
Yeah, a lot of people would fight against that because we are in an age of season passes and a lot of microtransactions and
Yeah,
a lot of behind the scenes garbage. Let's face it, there's a lot that goes on in the gaming industry that is crap. But when it comes to like variety of experience, we are in a sort of a little golden age of its own.
true. I mean,
It's very
like,
cool.
it's also kind of because there's just so many games out there, and it's again
Yeah.
why certain games take so long to be discovered sometimes. There's so much
Mhm.
choice that like the gems take a while to rise to the top nowadays. It's a bit of a challenge, honestly. But
Yeah, it's not as easy as just finding a big streamer and giving him a bit of cash to make your game big. Like you can't,
yeah,
and that only works for a really short amount of time. Really, it's kind of
true.
crazy.
It's because I mean, like, to go on a tangent, I do feel like the issue with like I suppose the streamer influenced games like showing up and being a thing is because the streamers themselves, at least the ones who have that influence, like are a bit more jaded. I think. Like they go,
Mm,
okay, it's a sponsored thing, guys, and then like if they're not really feeling it, they'll just drop it immediately. And I
mm-hmm,
think the drop is the most important thing to wait for and to notice
mm,
because at least for me, like I will like if I'm not involved in like a launch, I will see on my following every single person who is, and then like see like the game that they're playing is all that game,
mm-hmm.
and then I'll know if it's a good game or not if they're playing it tomorrow.
Yeah, if they're playing it when they're not sponsored to do so.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it makes a big
And it
difference for
almost
sure.
never happens. And if it does, I'm like, oh, that game actually might be good. And if it's not, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, someone's paid a bag,
It's why I always I got sponsored to do Final Fantasy 14 so often, and I
Mhm.
always came back to Final Fantasy 14 regardless of the sponsored streams. I'd always
Right.
end up playing it
It's
again
a good
because I'm like,
game.
this is genuinely such a good game. Like apart from despite what I said earlier about Stormblood being a slog, like there are slogs. It's an MMO. It
Yeah.
just happens sometimes, but generally speaking, it is a very good game. But anyway, let's talk about the best indie game then. I actually don't recognize most of these. So we've got Animal Well.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. Electro. I think if it doesn't win Game of the Year, it has to win Best Indie Game, in my
It
opinion.
has to. Yeah.
We've got Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which
Never
is an
heard of it.
Annapurna.
Yeah.
No, neither have I. Neva, which I played on stream but didn't end up finishing on stream, but that was by the developers of Grizz. A very nice little game.
Okay.
And UFO 50. What is that? I'm going to Google it. UFO 50. We should have Googled this before starting.
Yeah, we probably should have done a bit more research into some of these games, especially the
We
indies.
didn't have time. We've been busy playing video games.
That's right. We can't research video games when we're playing video games.
No,
What are we?
Journalists?
Journalists?
Podcasters? UFO 50 is presented as a compilation of games similar to Action 52. Oh, that's so interesting because I remember when I was a kid, it was like every year for Christmas, you would get one of those cheap consoles that was like 250 games in one, and half of them were the same type of game over and over. This seems kind of similar to that.
Okay.
I do wonder if that's. Oh, okay,
it almost,
this is interesting.
Yeah, it almost seems kind of like WarioWare, but without like if you play that right, like the micro game kind of thing, like with WarioWare, like it comprised of stages, but each stage had like maybe 20 micro games in it, like press A to kick the ball, and then like if you don't do it fast enough, then fail, and that kind of thing.
So it's kind of similar to what I was saying, but it kind of is like a meta interpretation of that style of like console/game thing, where it's presented as a compilation of games, and it's developed by the fictional company UFO Soft for a fictional set of video game consoles between 82 and 89.
Okay.
So yeah, it's all like sort of like a game jam. They were developed over the course of several years, like with game jam development processes, and it's pretty cool. It's like a meta story about how these games were all developed for these consoles and maybe never officially released and stuff like that. And
that is kind of cool. Looking at it right now, looking at this video, it essentially is WarioWare. But like the story of WarioWare, but you can actually play the games as opposed to play like the micro games of these guys making the games. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I mean, you are playing these games as well. They are all indie games that you can play.
Right.
They're all individual little games.
But they seem more complete than WarioWare, which is more of like a mini game, kind of like a party game thing.
Yeah. Which I never played, and I should.
I can't believe you haven't.
And interesting that you say that as well, because Metro's Game Central specifically praised that the games advertised were not WarioWare or anything like it, being 50 fully formed games.
Exactly, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then Polygon lauded the metafiction linking the games of the collection chronologically, highlighting the evolution of brutal mechanics found in Barbuta to the life-based mechanics found later in later games. So that's pretty cool, like a narrative of the development in general of the style of the games throughout the game you're playing. Really cool. I love that. That's sick.
Yeah, that's neat.
So that's one of the. I don't know what Laurel and the Laser Eyes is. Let's have a look. Laurel and the Laser Eyes. Oh, it's a puzzle game.
Okay.
Ooh, I've never heard of this. It's an old Baroque manor. A woman wanders in search of answers. It's got a very unique art style as well.
Yeah, it's like a punk noir almost, you know, like this is actually really cool looking, honestly.
Yeah. Sounds gorgeous as well. Got some real nice piano music. Well, now I want to play this.
Yeah, it's kind of compelling.
Like, and what I've spoken about a lot is these award shows do a really nice job, if you are a person that cares, in highlighting games you've not heard of and showing you games that you should have paid attention to. So big shout out.
Big ups to the Game Awards, I guess.
And it's another Annapurna publisher. Annapurna managed to do this over and over again, man. They bring out these really they publish these really unique games. I wonder what their process is.
Yeah. But yeah, you think Balatro is gonna win?
I think Balatro. Yeah, I think Balatro has it in the bag.
All right, I might have to get Balatro then. Like, I've been resisting. Simply because
this is what you were talking about.
Yeah, I play poker on like Wild RP and stuff like that. Like, you know, blackjack.
Maybe it's different. It's gamified, right?
True.
It's not just poker. It's evolved poker.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. All right.
Then we've got the best mobile game. We've got AFK Journey. We've got Balatro again. I can say the mobile adaptation is good. I was playing it on the train yesterday. We've got Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero.
I do have to say that, like, Pal World has not been in any of these things so far. Do you reckon that's a political thing? Like, you know, like Game Awards don't want to piss off Pokemon?
It might just be that the jury decided it isn't unique enough, or isn't like everything else deserves a nom before it.
That's quite possible.
So, it's only, I mean, at the end of the day, only 5 noms per category, right?
True. When I see these things, I'm like, okay, but surely, even though it's not like, you know, the be-all and end-all metric, like the impact of how many people actually bought your game should be quite high on the list, right? Because people are going to buy a game and keep it, not refund it unless it's deserving of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder how meta it gets. Like, oh, well, it didn't sell well, but it was still a fantastic game, so we should give them a nod by giving them a nomination for an award. Like,
exactly.
I wonder if that is a consideration.
Like Hellblade, for instance. Amazing game from a technical standpoint, but like it didn't really, you know, sell well or receive well.
Well, let's continue reading the noms because maybe they got one for like technical achievement or something.
Okay.
So best VR or AR game. Again, I don't play any VR stuff, so Arizona Sunshine Remake.
That was a good game.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, as a remake, man, remakes. Get your own category, remake. You know?
Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening.
Okay. So, I mean, I've played Metal Hellsinger like on, you know, pancake mode, right? Like your typical Steam game. That's what the VR gamers call like people who play like, you know, on the screen, pancake gamers.
Pancake.
Yeah.
That's so funny. How is there always some sort of term that can be taken derogatorily? As soon as you have a community, people look at another community. It's like some human nature thing.
Yeah.
Best action game, Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, one of the best performing Call of Duties in history. Well, not in history, in recent memory, which is interesting.
Okay.
Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer Space Marine 2. So, big category here.
That's a tough one. It seems like all the heaviest hitters are all in best action game, honestly. Like, this is going to be any single one of these games I feel would deserve Game of the Year, and I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Best action game.
Yes.
Oh, you just mean like they could be Game of the Year in general?
Either.
Oh.
Yeah.
Best action game. I don't even know what I'd pick here. That's really hard. I don't even...
Like, Wukong was fun, and I'm not going to besmirch Wukong. I'm just not a guy who, like, necessarily finishes games, generally speaking, because, like, I have, like, the attention span of a frickin' mayfly. But, like, it was fun. It was decent from what I, you know, from as far as I got into it, I got like, past the Tiger Vanguard and stuff. For
Mm.
people who are like, well, how far did you get? But like,
Do you think it's an action game? Do you think it's fair for it to be in that
oh,
category?
definitely,
I
it's an
didn't play.
action game.
Okay.
It's like a boss rush game that looks like a Souls-like
Mhm.
game. It's decent. I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I don't really know how much more you could do to a game like that to make it like to just be better, in my opinion.
Mm.
Just because of like,
Just the nature of the game.
yeah, if you overcomplicate things, you're not necessarily going to make it better.
Actually, this
Animations were
impact.
cool too. The bosses were kind of crazy because like they have like over, I think, 80 or so like actual different bosses, and each one had like their own different moveset. There wasn't really like a palette like oh, I fought this boss before, but it's a different skin. Everyone had a different
Yeah.
animation. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Which is important because that's hard, I think, when you're
Oh
making a
yeah,
boss rush game to make them all feel unique.
true.
Yeah. So, and then Stellar Blade. This is the first nod Stellar Blade's got as well, which is interesting because that was a big member of the culture wars, shall we call it?
Right.
For a while. There's a lot of discourse about that. But I mean, Space Marine 2, we're a bit biased. We loved that game.
Oh
So
man.
we that would probably have my vote. It's either that or Helldivers.
Yeah. I really enjoyed Space Marine. I would say that like because Space Marine had like a narrative story mode as well as just being kind of tight compared to like Helldivers 2, which is a fun game from a gameplay standpoint. For me, again, it's one of those things where I couldn't put my life into it the way that some people did. Like once I'd seen every single unit, once I'd leveled up to
Well, it's
max,
just nothing
I
to
was
explore
done.
and discover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like whereas we have a friend called Fist of the Walrus, and he literally every single day for hours would just do this one map because the planet wasn't saved.
Crazy. I mean, I get
For
it.
weeks.
That's how I feel about Call of Duty, right?
Mhm.
For a long time, if it's repetitive, but you feel like you can always improve, right? Like your skill level can always increase, and you can always do a bit better or be a bit more perfect at it. I can
Yeah.
understand that appeal, which is funny because I actually don't like roguelikes, despite the fact that that's exactly what that's the exact game loop. It's like do the same thing over and over and get better at it each time. And yeah, I don't really enjoy those games. But when it comes to like shooters, like Call of Duty or Helldivers, the appeal, I get it. I'm like, yeah, I want to like. Maybe it's because it doesn't have that skill based thing of like point and shoot that you it kind of some of us our monkey brains love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you mean though. Like once that curiosity is gone, that's kind of what happened with Elden Ring for me. Once I kind of hit my head against a wall a bit too much after like 60 hours, and I lost that initial like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's this? What am I? Where am I going? What's happening? It did lose its appeal a little bit.
Yeah. I keep hearing the word Elden Ring, and I keep going, oh, I really should finish that game. I mean, ah. And there's like a
Do it and just do
multiplayer
the
thing as well.
summons.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, just bring friends in.
Yeah.
Well, best action adventure game, Astrobot again. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This is the first
Okay.
mod to Prince of Persia as well.
So that's that.
This was the remake.
Yeah. So this is the flat one, right? Is it the remake or is this the 2D
Is it not
one?
the remake of the first? I don't know actually. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm full of rubbish. The Lost Crown. Action adventure platformer game. Is it like a side scroller? This
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different. Ah, well there you go. That's up for best action adventure as well as Silent Hill 2. Star Wars Outlaws on their first nomination as well. That was touted to be one of the biggest games of the year, but didn't seem to land quite where they wanted it to. And Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah. I haven't played the Zelda game. I think that's the one where you actually play as Zelda, right? But like with Star Wars Outlaws, I mean, like I saw that from afar. I never played it. I kind of like just saw the reaction and the reception of it. Interestingly, like I mean, Astrobot's there again, but like I think somebody in chat mentioned, why is Black Myth Wukong not in action adventure? I would say that Wukong's a bit too linear, honestly. I mean, like it seems expansive and it seems you can explore, and you kind of can, but like it's still, if you just held the stick forwards, and at least the two worlds I went to, you could get to the end fairly easily. And I don't really know.
There's not enough adventure in your
Yeah, I mean, like
adventure.
exactly, it has the same amount of adventure as the Warhammer 40k Space Marine game has, honestly, in my opinion. If not just a little bit more, but I guess it's kind of almost hard to draw the line because I don't think there's really a hard fast line between action adventure and action, like generally speaking.
Well, I don't really have any preference in this one, to be honest. I think Silent Hill 2 I would really go for best
Yeah,
action adventure.
I've heard good things about it. And it's interesting because like I guess there is I don't know if there is a category for best horror game. So where the heck would Silent Hill 2 go otherwise? You know, like what would you classify it as? I guess action adventure works. I wouldn't have thought it that way
If there's
myself.
no horror, like
Yeah.
pick, I guess. Then we've got best RPG. We've got Dragon's Dogma 2.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor Fantasio.
Right.
Yeah. I would be frustrated, I think, if Game of the Year is given to Elden Ring again, and they also win Best RPG. I hope if they do win Game of the Year, I hope at least something else gets Best RPG, because that will diminish my.
I do hope the Game Awards do take this into consideration for next year and give DLC their own thing, because it's really awkward to put like, you know, a DLC in these categories, because end of the day, I mean, like, you're not playing the DLC, you're playing the game, and the game just has extra content. I mean, to be fair, some DLC are literally like, you know, the whole like separately enclosed thing. I don't know how much of like, you know, the new like Elden Ring game is, but even still, you know, like it's not a separate title, and I don't believe it necessarily deserves to be this. But I've already complained last week about it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we had this discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There's many things to consider. It's a big DLC. It's a significant chunk of game. It's like basically the whole game in itself. However, it's still just the same game, essentially. Like, it doesn't add anything. It adds the same of more, right? It's more of the same. I think I had a joke. It just adds more of the same, which is, and that more of the same might be incredible. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's still very, very good. But does more of the same necessitate yeah, you know, and then you can make that argument for like, well, it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, just more of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, is that just more of the same? Does that deserve a nod for the same thing? So, you know, and then sequels, isn't that just more of the same? So there's a slippery slope, I think, with these arguments. It's quite an interesting argument.
Yeah.
All right, then we've got Best Fighting Game: Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Multiverses, and Tekken 8. Multiverses, actually, that's one when we were talking earlier about having games nominated when they become popular. Multiverses was re-released, wasn't it, this year?
Yes, it was re-released, but I don't necessarily know if it had like a huge reception even after the re-release. At least like my fighting game friends didn't, you know, clamor to it, so I don't really know how it fared from like a Twitch streaming or professional like FGC sort of like standpoint. But I mean, I guess for fans of, you know, like all those IPs and stuff, to have a hero fighter, maybe perhaps it did land, and I just didn't see it.
I didn't see. I saw a lot of complaints, but then I think the internet is just for complaining. So
the internet is for complaining. My God.
Someone in chat mentioned, why aren't we putting Final Fantasy 14 expansions in the Game of the Year category? And it's an interesting discussion we had last week about the World of Warcraft expansions.
Right.
This last expansion hit pretty well. Like, people really enjoyed it. And same with Final Fantasy expansions. Where do they deserve nods? Often they get nods in like Best Ongoing Game, which is a category. It's one of the only categories they ever really get nominated for, because it's one of the only categories they are, I guess, typically suitable for. But yeah, where's the line blurred?
Definitely, because it does feel like a little bit of favoritism in that case if, like, you know, Elden Ring gets this, but those games do not, because they all fall under the exact same category here. And that's why I feel like they should just go into a DLC, like, you know, thing and be done with, honestly. And then have the ongoing thing as well.
Pros and cons either way.
Yeah.
Pros and cons. When we've got Best Sim/Strategy Game, we've got Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kinitsugami, Path of the Goddess, Mana Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. I feel like Mana Lords might take that.
Which is wild, because Mana Lords is a single dev game, and it's their first ever game they've ever made in their lives. And they're up here against these freaking giants, you know, and oh my, it's taken home the gold. But yeah, we'll see. I haven't played it myself. I've seen friends play. I've watched friends play it.
I've just seen the hype. Like, people were, I'm really excited about that game. Aren't they?
I played Frostpunk 2, but it's one of those games you can't really learn on stream unless, of course, you have, you know, you're that way inclined, and I'm not.
A lot of exposition and stuff.
A lot of exposition, a lot of like just mechanics that you have to kind of be familiar with, like instead of a tutorial, which there's like actual like tables and charts and freaking like just drop down lists of like tutorials that there's like, hey, learn this. But it looks cool. And a friend of the stream like voices like one of the characters, or at least like the city. So that's neat. But that's biased.
Just mild bias.
Yeah, mild bias.
I was playing League of Legends the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Elspeth voices Tristana.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh god, that's so like it's so strange when you're real life. Well, I'm always hesitant to call people friends because I'm like, I don't want to overstate our relationship here, but slightly more than acquaintances,
colleagues.
I guess. People you know and get along with.
Colleagues.
Yeah, colleagues. I don't know. When you see them in real life and you see them working, and you're like, oh god, that's them.
Right.
Like seeing Amelia in Baldur's Gate 3, and like, it's Millie.
True.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Then we've got the best sports / racing game. It seems like these. I don't know if these
racing's a
are always
sport.
consolidated. Well, yeah. I just don't. That's an interesting consolidation to me. I don't remember if this is always how it is, but I guess racing games are not always the same year, are they? They come out. There's not that many racing games, realistically.
Yeah, they don't make a Mario Kart every single year, and when there isn't, I mean, like, what else
like
are people
Forza.
playing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only racing game is Mario Kart, of course. So we've got F1 24, EA Sports FC 25, NBA 2K25, Topspin 2K25, and WWE 2K24.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the target audience for any of these games. You know, I've been banned by my family from playing FIFA because I don't watch football, so I'm not allowed to win. So I just haven't. So I haven't been playing or following the game. I mean, obviously, every year they add different things to the game. You know, they add elements to it that did, you know, like the characters sweat more this year, yay. But when it comes down to it, I mean, I suppose what are you going to be voting for here? The most technical advancement, or like, you know, again, how your player base? Like, where do you draw the line here?
Let's look at Topspin 2K25 if you haven't seen or heard of this. This is a tennis game.
Right.
And I don't think I've ever seen a tennis game get a nod in an awards like this. This is, I mean, it's interesting that it's nominated. When you look on Steam at the user reviews, they are mixed.
Okay.
They are not good. I mean, it doesn't, I've got to be completely honest, looking at the game itself, it does not look good. It just doesn't look fantastic at all.
Yeah.
Most of these, I'm very cynical about a lot of these sports games. I think a lot of them, they're money printers. Obviously, they're going to put out a new game every year.
True.
But when it comes to, do they actually change or do anything interesting year on year? Not particularly, do they ever? Do they ever really iterate? Can they? Can they even do that? No, not really. They can't, because people don't want that.
Yeah, you can't really like iterate on football and have it still be football.
And you can't do much. I think, what do they have? Like, the stuff they introduced into FIFA,
like skills and stunts and stuff. But that was like, you know, the last time they did that was like, you know, or at least introduced it was like 15 years ago. Ever since then, it's like cards and packs and like, you know, ways to keep people engaged and pay more money. That's kind of like how they iterate now.
They have very little motivation to do anything different, and they just print money every year by producing basically the same thing,
just
not
by
having
existing.
to change much. Yeah, but I mean, the licensing is what will cost them, obviously, the big dollar cash and how they probably bleed money. But even so, I don't know. I think it's interesting that the tennis game is nominated. Just looking at these reviews alone, they're not good. Like, there are a lot of very negative reviews here, and but not just like. We are used to seeing negative review bombs these days. They're just like, oh, woke game, trash, thumbs down. But these are fair reviews. These are
woke
well-written.
Tennis.
Yeah, woke tennis. If you really need a tennis fix, this will cover you for a day or two.
Oh my god.
You'll get bored with how linear and untennis-like the play actually is. Stunning.
What I found interesting about this is that there are only 2 publishers within this list of sports games. It's EA or 2K.
Yeah. It's the publishers of sports games, really. 2K's bread and butter, sports-based games. Well, anyway, best family game. We've got Astrobot again. We've got Princess Peach Showtime. Yes, it is. 3 from Nintendo with Princess Peach Showtime, which I hadn't heard of. Super Mario Party Jamboree. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire.
All right. And again, I've only really heard about, you know, like maybe 3 of those titles there. I have a Switch. I should probably get Echoes of Wisdom just because, like, you know, there hasn't been a Zelda game I haven't played.
It looks
and I'm not gonna.
Animal Crossing.
Which one?
It's like Zelda Animal Crossing.
Echoes
of Wisdom.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't actually looked at the gameplay. Let me see. Echoes of Wisdom.
I'm just looking at the images I can see from it.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
It's very
the art
Animal Crossing
style.
style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
cute. It just look adorable, and it's a little bit different as well, which I like.
I'm not gonna
I like
have
that they're
people.
branching out the
Yeah.
franchise.
I ain't gonna have people calling me out because I haven't played this one because it's the only one you play as a girl. Okay, I have to play it now.
Yeah, all right. Call yourself out. Now I'm thinking about it. So that's best family game, best multiplayer. We've got Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We've got Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Space Marine 2 for best multiplayer. That one I'm quite surprised at, actually.
For best multiplayer, I mean,
for
like,
best multiplayer.
I feel like the only way to really experience Space Marine 2 without like getting an aneurysm is to play it with friends because the AI isn't
100%.
great.
Yeah, it's just for I'm surprised there isn't another game that's nominated instead. I guess it's not really what I would have thought of for Space Marine 2 is like a multiplayer extravaganza. But with that said, I know that the actual multiplayer game mode was very Gears of War, you know, OG Gears of War, and a lot of people were really liking it for that reason. So I know my friends played a lot of the multiplayer.
There's a lot of PvP as well, although I could not stand the PvP because there's this one grenade that doesn't do what it does in like the actual story mode. It's like you throw the shock grenade, which like, you know, is an AoE, but in multiplayer in PvP, you throw the shock grenade and it flashes your entire screen white. And everyone has these grenades. And it's the single most annoying experience of my life. But yeah, otherwise, did you lose you for a second?
I might have accidentally clicked out of the call.
You just didn't care about my experience in 40k.
Oops. Yeah, best multiplayer.
But yeah, I adore 40k. I mean, like, I don't know why, but like after we finished playing like the story mode, like I tried playing with other friends and stuff. It didn't really hit the same. So I don't know about best multiplayer. I couldn't see how Tekken 8 could have best multiplayer because it's a 2-player game. You can have tournaments and stuff, sure, but like I don't know. As far as fighting games go as well, I mean, like, why is this in best multiplayer, but like the other fighting games aren't? Do the Game Awards?
Yeah, what makes that so good? What has set it apart?
Exactly. Are the Game Awards?
I wish sometimes we would get a brief explanation as to what the nomination is specifically looking for, but I understand why they don't do that. It's very subjective, but it would be nice to understand why sometimes. Why Tekken 8 specifically.
Yeah.
I reckon Helldivers 2 has that one. I gotta be for real.
They might do for sure.
Helldivers 2 offered the best multiplayer experience that we've had this year.
Yeah.
It offered something very special. The way that they did the co-op and the randoms multiplayer, I think was just it was damn good.
I think the first couple months of release was amazing, and I don't think that you should expect any game to have that same momentum today as they did when it first came out. Like, because
but it still fell off.
Yeah, it fell off quite considerably, but like when it came out for those 2 months, it was immense, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it should be kind of like, you know, lauded for that immensity of when it was released and not how it is today, I feel.
Yeah. Like, remember it in its peak is what I always think of when I look at game nominations. I don't think about it like right now. I think, what was it like when I was playing it? Like in its peak, and when I was playing it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So, but that's why categories like this one, best ongoing game, are important. So, best ongoing game, Destiny 2. Interesting. You see, because Destiny 2 had one of its biggest expansions in the final shape, which came out in the summer.
Yeah.
But right now is probably at its worst. Like, I think a lot of people would argue that Destiny 2 is in the worst place it's ever been.
Okay.
So when you think about best ongoing game, what I'm thinking of is now, like right now. So what's it like now to play? Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14. Fortnite and Helldivers 2 are the nominations for this. And when I think about right now, this minute, which game is in the best healthy position, I don't think any of them are like really vying for my vote here.
To talk about Diablo 4's health, do you know who the top player in Diablo 4 is right now?
I don't believe it. It just seems so weird to me, like so untrue.
I've seen the live streams and stuff, and he's the one playing, unless someone's playing when he's not streaming. But right now Elon
How
Musk
does he
is.
have the time? That's what I don't understand.
I don't really know what CEOs do because aren't the other people doing all the work and then
Yeah,
they
but when
just
you're a CEO of like 4 companies, surely that is work. Surely it all adds up, right?
surely. But I mean,
But
like
anyway.
other CEOs are going on yacht trips and stuff. I mean, he's playing video games. It's whatever.
True.
But yeah,
That's his
anyway.
prerogative. I guess that's just what he does when he's on his private jet from town to town. But yeah, Destiny 2, best ongoing game. If we look at like each of these games in their peak this year, I think Destiny 2 has got a strong contender because Final Shape was very good.
Right.
Diablo 4 had the DLC Vessel of Hatred that it didn't get like rave reviews, but it wasn't terrible. It seemed to just be like, okay, well, it's just more content, that's fine. Final Fantasy 14, did that have a major expansion this year or was it last year?
I think it might have been this year, but I have not been following it as religiously as I used to.
We are like, so for context, I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 a lot, but I'm so behind that I've not been paying any attention to like releases. I've been playing as I play. So I got through Heaven's Word and Stormblood and stuff, and I'm really behind on like what's current.
Yeah, I'm on Stormblood post game myself. Like ever since I started being a Star Citizen creator, everything else is kind of like just like static white noise.
Yes, yeah, everything just blurs into the background.
Yeah.
We've got Fortnite, which Fortnite, to be fair, they're having like a little renaissance right now. They've got their remix, as I know, because I did a tournament with them last night. But they just added shoes into the game that you can buy shoes. They also just did a collaboration with Crocs. I got a new pair of Crocs, by the way. A new pair. They're fuzzy on the inside.
What?
Wow. I know.
Doesn't that defeat the whole object of the fact Crocs are waterproof if they're going to be fuzzy on the inside?
No, they're great. They're washable.
Okay.
And they're platforms, so I look a bit taller.
But shoes are interesting. I guess Valve has the monopoly on hats, huh? But like, I guess shoes make sense. Like, because you can
have Kicks. They've got Nike. They're doing collaborations with like Jordans and everything. They've got Crocs in the game as well. They've got Crocs in real life. They're doing a lot of collabs, which, I mean, Fortnite are the king of collaborations. It's very clear. Very fair to say. But they're also bringing back Fortnite Classic or whatever they're calling it, in which
the building,
the old maps.
Oh right,
with building, I think. Yeah, it's just all of the old maps coming back.
Oh yeah, because the maps evolve and stuff, and
I mean, there's Juice World. There's like 3 zones right now. One of them's Eminem's Spaghetti Zone or whatever. One of them's Juice World, and one of them's Ice Spice.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot right now. There's a lot going on.
The rapper or the sweets? Eminem's.
The rappers. You can go kill Eminem or Ice Spice, and then you pick up their gun, and then they follow you around the map and help you.
Hold on, why are all these rappers and singers named after food? Eminem's, Juice, Ice Spice.
I guess it's just delicious. I guess it's a good association in the mind. So those are our best ongoing game noms. I don't know who I'd give it to.
Here's my question. Here's my question. Somebody put Snoop Dogg in chat. I was talking about those 3 specifically. Come on.
Snoop Dogg's in the game as well. I forgot.
Oh right. But
I forgot about that.
Yeah. When it comes down to best ongoing game, in my mind, because it says best ongoing game, I almost want to judge it not the same way as I would have judged, let's say, best multiplayer. You know what I mean? Like, I was going to say, let's judge Helldivers 2 based on when it came out, and how that experience was and how it was for the players, because over time the players got jaded by things like how they balance and stuff like that, everything else aside. And so that's kind of affected like the player base and who's playing it and how many. When it comes down to best ongoing game for me, I'm like, for me, it's like not necessarily like what was their highlight this year. It's like, what are they like today?
That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
What is it like now? Today, so when I'm thinking like Helldivers 2 for best multiplayer, I'm like, back then it was really good.
Yeah, but right now it shouldn't get best ongoing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm the same. I think probably Final Fantasy 14. I would probably say I think they win. I don't know if they win often. I feel like they do win consistently, but that might be my brain telling me that. Destiny 2 should not win right now as it stands. Diablo maybe. Fortnite, it's a pretty strong contender.
Fortnite's very strong. I mean, like, it's just like the giant right now. Like, of all the games right now that are out, or these.
They're doing it right every time.
Yeah, what's the highest grossing? I mean, like, it's Roblox and this. In fact, Roblox isn't here.
Yeah, true. Roblox isn't here. I don't know how much Roblox. I haven't really ever looked into Roblox. So how much do Roblox do in the game compared to how much their user created content does in the game? So
it's kind of one and the same, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but like that's what I mean. Like, how much do the developers of Roblox put into it and add and iterate compared to the users of Roblox? And
Right.
would that affect the nominations, for example? I've not really looked into it, so I don't know for sure. But I think it's just mostly user generated. So I don't know. Someone correct me, please. Right,
Please.
best game direction. We've got Astrobot, Balatro. We've again a lot of the same nominees here: Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy Rebirth, and Metaphor Refantasio. This is 6 nominations for
Yeah.
best game direction. Which
So
is
when it
interesting.
comes down to direction, I feel like it's a tough one actually, because for me, I was like thinking, how does a director work within the movie space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then I can easily say, oh yeah, okay, Elden Ring, Black Myth
Mm-hmm.
Wukong, Final Fantasy VII,
Mm-hmm.
Metaphor even. All these things have like
Strong story narrative
yeah,
and
strong narrative, cameras, this, that, the
coherence.
other, exactly the way things are set up within a scene to tell the story. There's direction in that. But I guess within a
Mm-hmm.
video game, like that's not necessarily all direction is. Direction's also how do I make this game? And I think
Mm.
that's kind of where Bellatra comes in. It takes the meaning of direction and twists it a whole different way. Because from the gameplay I've seen of Bellatra, there is no, direction as far
Mm-hmm.
as scene setup, voice acting, like all that stuff. So what
I
do
don't
they mean
know
by
what.
game direction?
Yeah, I don't know how to define best game direction. Because if I think of direction, I think like focus, drive, like overall yeah, coherence, I guess is the word I would use for it.
Right.
Like, does it make sense as a journey? And that would be my way of interpreting that. But I don't know about that because then Balatro I feel isn't there is definitely an evolution of the game, and
Mm-hmm.
perhaps that's a fairer term than direction. Like, is it the best evolution? Um but yeah, then I would probably go with like Rebirth again because I'm biased. But again, like, how do you do? How do you separate that from the other categories where you could probably interpret them similarly, like best narrative and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Best adaptation, Arcane. That's gonna win.
I
There's no
like
way
this
Arcane
category.
doesn't win.
I love this
Yeah, this is a
category.
good
Yeah, because
category.
it's not a game. This isn't a category
Yeah.
for games. This is for like outside of video games, the best kind of like use of the video game IP in another
Mm-hmm.
field. And I think this is really sweet. But yeah,
Yeah,
Arcane.
absolutely. Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, and Tomb Raider, Legend of Lara Croft. Yeah, some really strong contenders there. Fallout was so good. But
Mm-hmm.
Arcane's gonna win. Like, there's no way in hell Arcane doesn't win. Arcane has been an absolute phenom. Like, I can't even. I don't want to talk about it too much, but yeah, the finale was this weekend, and I cannot believe how much of an impact Arcane has had on me, on everybody I know. Everybody who's watched it has had the same thing to say, which is just wow.
It's changed
Like,
my life.
I don't know if I'd get that far, but certainly like what a triumph to have created Arcane. Genuinely, like, there's not many series, especially animated, that I will watch and be like jaw on the floor. Like, like people say that stuff a lot, right? Like, oh, my jaw was on the floor. I was absolutely astounded. And I always watch stuff and I'm like, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't like that good. That's so
Right.
over the top. But I watched Arcane and I was like, oh, oh my god, this is genuinely incredible. So they really did
Yeah,
create
I
something
would
very
say that
unique.
it's like of all these things that I've seen, it's been the most gripping for sure. It's been the
Mm.
most like you can't put it down. It makes sense visually speaking. It's an achievement. It's just a good show. And if you're not into League of Legends, I would still say give it a shot because it's pretty good.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't need to know League of
at
Legends.
all.
I was trying to see if the Game Awards, if this is a new category or if this is. No, it's 2022 was this awards introduction, so it's been
Okay.
in for 2 years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no Borderlands movie.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
to
no.
whose surprise exactly? Borderlands went the way of
How
frickin' Cowboy
unfortunate. Oh,
Bebop.
yeah, that's really unlucky.
Ah, man.
Uh,
Knuckles, I haven't seen any of the Sonic movies, but I think I actually will. I need to sit
you know
down and
what?
have.
I watched the first one and it wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah.
It was better than I thought it'd be.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it could have been worse.
Knuckles show is great, apparently. So yeah,
Mm.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. And of course, and this is for later perhaps, but like the third movie has been greenlit and we've seen what it's about now, and it's cool. We'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about it later.
Yeah, this is a long week today.
Yeah.
Right. Best narrative nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor Refantasio, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. There's the nom for that.
Mm-hmm.
And Silent Hill 2. It's
All
really
right.
hard with narrative when it comes to remakes, like Silent Hill Rebirth. Like Final Fantasy Rebirth, like Silent Hill 2. These games that are remakes, essentially, the narrative has been laid out for them years and years and years ago. Like they don't. There's argument, of course, that Final Fantasy Rebirth deviates from the norm, and it does. There are deviations, and they have had to work on narrative based on that. Silent Hill 2 is far more faithful to the original Silent Hill 2 story.
Right.
So I don't know. I wonder if there's something to be said for the fact that the narrative was set long ago with those games. Is it fair to nominate them now? Is it these award shows didn't really exist back then in the same way? So is it fair that they get a nomination now because they couldn't back then? I don't know.
I suppose when it comes down to it, like, there's a lot going for a game like Rebirth, because, like, I don't know how one-to-one the script is between Final Fantasy VII and, this new voiceover game.
I mean, it's very different. Like, the amount of stuff, this is why I talk about it. Like, it is a triumph in its own way, because the amount of stuff they added to Rebirth is absurd.
Right.
Like, it's just the sheer amount of content. Of course, it follows a similar path. Like, there's the same zones and, like, largely the same characters, but they've also just built everything out massively. So like everything's got more depth, everything is far more interesting. It's like there's so much more to it. And also when it comes to the sheer actual storyline, fans know without spoilers, like there are questions. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's following it one to one. There's a lot of like, oh, what is happening? Why are they involved? Where are we going with this? So there is mystery.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, like a remake versus like a remaster. Remasters definitely, in my opinion, shouldn't be in the equation. Remakes are a complete from the ground up reimagining. It's like saying that, like, Andrei Sapkowski's Witcher books shouldn't like be adapted into a game, and that game shouldn't get narrated because he wrote the book 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, for that reason, I think that it's a good thing that it's here. If it's a good story, then that's all that matters. End of the day. I haven't played 7 Rebirth. Of course, 7's been around for so long. I know all the memes. I know what happens and everything else like that. But it's unfair for me to compare it to, like, other games that I haven't played, like Metaphor, for instance, to say whether or not I think any of these games are gonna win. But would you say that, like, story-wise with 7, like, regardless of not having played Infinite Wealth or Refantasio or Hellblade even, would you say that it was so strong for you that these other games wouldn't necessarily stand a chance?
I've heard very varying things about Hellblade when it comes to like the story and the game itself, aside of the technical achievement. That's for I don't know. I know the Yakuza series is very good.
Okay.
Like I played only one Yakuza game, but I was like, wow, this is actually fantastic. But I do think Rebirth stands out on its own. Yeah, I think it's strong enough that it can sustain itself, but I also have a feeling Rebirth won't get any awards. I think it's going to be one of those games that is just snubbed. Just because there are a lot of strong options out there, but I do think just because of the fact that it is in that weird remakey territory, and because of the fact that the narrative itself is a little bit controversial with the choices that they're making with the established pattern, with the established story, I think it would just probably end up not picking anything up, sadly, as much as I think it deserves it.
That's fair.
Who do you think will win? Do you have any thoughts and opinions?
For narrative, unfortunately, I haven't played any of these games, but I've heard good things about Silent Hill 2. I mean, like, people just keep talking about it, like, all the, just everything you see and the things you don't see. Yeah.
Continues to work on the original, right? And it doesn't deviate too much, because that's what people want from a remake. They just want a better original that suits current technology.
Right.
So there's something to be said for that, right? Where if they manage to do that well enough, it deserves a nom.
Yeah, I would say. And stop trying to make nom happen, please.
Nom. Nom. It's already happened. It's long ago.
All right, we get best debut indie game next, and I think it's kind of cool that they have debut written there as well, because that means that, like, if the game came out again, a game like Among Us wouldn't have been able to win back in, like 2020 if this was the case, if it was a deep debut, because it's the 3-year-old game at that point.
And we have a best indie game category already, so it's just a separate indie game category, which is nice.
That's fair, actually. Yeah, I forgot about that.
With that in mind,
yeah,
Balatro is nominated for both.
I suppose that's because the maker of Balatro, that's their first ever game they've made.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just a
it's not that
huge
it doesn't
hit.
deserve to be in both, but it is
Yeah.
interesting that it could take both.
It's
I
kind of
feel like.
crazy. Same with Manalords, actually.
Mm.
Yeah, Manalords, again, single dev, and it's the first game they've ever published, and it's up
But
for
they're
so
not
many
nommed for indie. They're just for best
for debut.
indie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're up there for
But
something
Balatro's
else,
first.
I think. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they are. Yeah.
it's still crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we've also got Animal Well, Pacific Drive is up for a nom for best debut indie. The Plucky Squire again.
I wasn't a massive fan of Pacific Drive. Like,
Really?
yeah,
I think PB was playing it a lot.
I played like, yeah, I just couldn't get into it. It just didn't do it for me. But I guess, you know, to each their own, right? But I'll need to play Balatro again. Like, best debut indie game. Like, you're putting in so many different games here, like 5, from different, like, from genres, right? So it's a hard one to compare, you know, apples to oranges or Balatros to Manalords, for instance. Like, what are you actually comparing them against, you know, because what's the metric here?
I mean, that's the same with a lot of these. Like,
Yeah.
how can they really be compared against each other? How do we objectively, like, decide which one is more worthy?
Right. I mean, if anything, I think Balatro or Manalords will likely win simply because they are the highest grossing of all these 5. But again, highest grossing, highest concurrency doesn't necessarily seem to be what causes a game to win. That being said,
but this is where impact comes in as well, because it's recognizable because of the impact it had. So
and clearly Balatro has had a lot of impact because it's been you know, nominated like 4 or 5 times. So already internally the Game Awards is biased towards Balatro here for this reason. Whereas Manalords only has, for now that we've seen, 2 nominations.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just scrolling back up to remember what the other one was. Best sim strategy game was the other nom that Bannerlord's got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think Balatro has again kind of maybe got this one, but we'll see. Again,
We'll see.
the voting for this is interesting. Then we've got best art direction. We've got Astrobot again, another nominee. Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Metaphor, Refantasio again, and Neva. Ooh, Neva's very good.
Neva. What is Neva about?
It's you and your little pet wolfy dog thing, but it's like a kind of spirit guardian thing, I guess. And you're kind of growing with her and trying to figure out sort of why the forest is decaying. A little bit of a typical story, I think. It's not like a unique story. I think that's very like overdone in terms of like, oh, what's happening to the land? Why is it dying? But it was done well. It was the same people who made Dude Grizz, which was again a gorgeous game. And yeah, the art direction for it was worthy of the nomination for sure.
Okay. I feel like when it comes down to art direction, I'm not sure if Black Myth Wukong necessarily like would do it for me when you put it in like the same ring as all these other things here, because even though Black Myth Wukong was really, really decent, it was beautiful. At the same time, I don't think that from an art perspective it necessarily did anything different. You know, we've seen this before in a sense, but like just with a different like lens per se. But I don't know. Does something have to be?
Does Elden Ring deserve it? I guess if it's
right.
We've seen it before.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen what the Elden Ring bosses of Shadow of the Erdtree look like, or like, you know, the art style of those bosses and that kind of thing as well.
Which, I mean, I have faith that they were fantastic, because they always are. Like, every single time you get a FromSoft boss, it's incredible looking.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that's not true. I did see some of them. I was watching my friend's playthrough. It's just that long ago. They came out at the same time as, like, Destiny, so a lot of my friends were, like, split between them. But yeah, some of the bosses were very, very cool looking.
I might have a bias when it comes to art direction, because for me, when you say art direction, all of a sudden I'm like, well, you know, I see a really heavily stylized thing in my mind, like a metaphor, for instance, like, you know, something more
artistic.
Yes, as opposed to like 3D art, which is also artistic, but it's just trying to be more grounded.
Because I'm like, well, everything's artistic, obviously.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more stylistic. I don't know, because they're all stylized in their own ways as well.
Exactly. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one to talk about. But Metaphor, I mean, there's Persona, but again, there's merit to be said for like they did it well, right? Like it's when you do it well, you deserve the nomination.
Yeah, judging by the people, you know, like in charge of 90% of the votes here, I do feel as if maybe perhaps Metaphor is going to win simply because you know, like again, for me, when you say art, oh, this one's a 2D art. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's art.
But never has that like. What I always look for is like the blend of maybe atypical artistic style choices within the
Hmm.
video game sphere, and that's why I quite like Neva. That and Grizz, they kind of harnessed a lot of that watercolor effect in the gameplay, and then matched it with slightly different art styles for like the character and the combat and stuff. And the way that they managed to marry those things is always very cool.
Right.
But yeah, so let's move on to the best score slash music. Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor Refantasio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Well, we all know what I'm gonna nominate. My vote 100% would be Rebirth. I went to the orchestra. What the sheer breadth of music in Rebirth, astonishing. All of it's incredible. There's a real genre blend, and it all manages to feel really cohesive. So yeah, really, really big fan of.
Unfortunately, I'm on the same page. I mean, like, I haven't played 7, but Uematsu is peerless. He is ridiculous. It is interesting again that we see Astrobot here for like the umpteenth time.
Yeah.
There's no bias. It's just a great game.
Yeah.
I haven't played it myself, but yeah, interesting.
But a different category to audio design, which of course is more based on the cohesiveness of all of the audio you hear in the game, like sound effects, the menu stuff, like not just the music, but everything that comes together. And for that, we have Astrobot again. We've got Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is an interesting one.
COD Blops. I mean, gun sounds, right? And explosions.
Well, I guess they could always get more fidelicious.
Fidelicious. Well, I know with Forza, like, they actually like take like microphones to the racetracks and record the cars and stuff. So they likely do the same with Call of Duty. You'd expect them to, I
100%.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Tarkov, they were the same. They went to like abandoned old forests and they'd record all of their sounds and all the environments very faithfully. We've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth again. We've got Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, from a technical standpoint, I haven't played 2, but Hellblade Senua's Saga 1, or I feel like audio-wise, like, again, these guys, from a technical standpoint, are amazing. So it's no surprise that they're for nominations here at all.
I heard fantastic things about Silent Hill 2 and their usage of sound to build, as you have to in horror games, build the anticipation. But like the anticipation and that horrible creeping feeling inside, or like something's gonna happen.
Right.
The dread that's so important to build in horror games, and it's so easy to do wrong. So I've heard very good things about Silent Hill 2 managing to do that perfectly. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to play it now.
Best performance. We've got Brianna White in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, plays Aerith.
Okay.
We've got Hannah Tell in Life is Strange Double Exposure. We've got Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts in Silent Hill 2, and Melina Juergens in Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade 2. Wasn't the thing with Hellblade as well? Didn't they get people from the studio to do the voice acting originally? And that was kind of like the whole like, whoa.
Yeah, I think the origin story of Melina, I don't know if this is the main character or not. There are a couple of interesting stories here. So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong about Melina being the main character. Is she Senua?
I'm looking at the IMDb. I'm scrolling. I'm accepting cookies. Yes, she was Senua.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't initially intended to be Senua. Like, she was just there working in the office, and like they just requested her to like do a couple of like capture shots and stuff, and they're like, you know what? You're it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a video editor. It looks like largely performance cap artist. Yeah. And
they were just
it's cool that I like that.
Yeah,
very organic way of being discovered like that. So yeah, very very cool. But yeah, best performance wise, that's hard. That's a hard one.
Yeah, I didn't play much. I mean, I haven't played like Star Wars Outlaws at all. I mean, I've seen like cinematics and stuff, and I've seen people go, "Wow, this is such a bad cutscene." And so from all those like from all those like probing criticisms and stuff of the game, I don't know how easy it would have been for Humberly Gonzalez to like portray the character if people are too busy going, this is bad, this is bad. I don't know. Somebody who's played the game had to tell me.
Without like sounding critical, I should remember if there was anything that happened in Rebirth that would determine that Aerith deserved a nomination. Like I'm trying to like, was there anything that was like super impressive in this in Rebirth for that, and there's nothing that's like standing out to me. I think she was like, it's just generally like obviously great.
Yeah.
But I'm like, did she stand out above anyone else? I can't remember. I don't think
Just
so.
bring back the Baldur's Gate 3 cast. I mean, we're doing this, right?
Yeah, but we've also got Warhammer, Space Marine 2. We didn't get any nods for that for the voice acting, which is a shame.
I mean, unfortunately, with the way these things are, I mean, like within Space Marine, I don't believe there was much by way of like emotional depth, and I feel like any of these performances are going to likely want some of that. I mean, just because of like where we are right now in game development. I mean, like I think Microsoft had this whole like guidelines thing for anybody making a game under their license that within the guideline list, one of them is like, if you have a male character, have you made sure that they have emotion? Like literally.
Are they a well-rounded person?
You can't make like Space Marines essentially.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy though, because there's always space for that kind of character in games. Games are fantasy.
Yeah, there's always space for Marines.
Yeah, create a space for these Marines.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to me that we would try and remove that aspect where like, why can't we have these one-dimensional characters and also be aware that they are one-dimensional and critical of that fact when we talk about them as characters? Same way as books, right? It's like the idea that some people think, oh, that author's terrible because they wrote a villain and the villain was villainous and did bad things.
Leah,
it's like,
it's 2024, okay? The audience doesn't have time for critical thinking.
It just blows my mind a bit. Like, we should be... But then, it's all too often you do see people almost worshipping the people who are supposed to be terrible, horrible people, telling... sure, they were horrible people, but they were my hero. So maybe, they have a point in a way, but also, media literacy is always a hot topic of conversation.
Yeah,
but I think we should be allowed to have meatheads. Why
True.
can't we have meatheads, man?
This takes me back to I was watching a friend's stream, and they were doing some roleplay, and they had like one of these puckish asshole characters who like makes snarky remarks, and it kind of like Crispin, the character I do. But then like he got this massive raid, and he said something that was out of pocket but also funny in a isn't he a little shit kind of way, and he's gonna get his own, and he gets punished later anyway. And then like 3 or 4 people are like, oh my god, I hate this character, I can't believe he said that, you should be ashamed of yourself. And he was like, listen, okay, that's the point.
Yeah.
This is a medium.
At the same time, especially in roleplay, all too often you see people who have no self-awareness who are just assholes, and they don't understand that there needs to be a level of self-awareness.
Right.
Like, you can play an asshole as long as you sit there going, this is an asshole thing to do, and
right.
It's not representative of me necessarily. If you don't have that knowledge and you just think I am right, then you're in trouble.
What is nuance?
Yeah, what is nuance?
Who knows? It's dead. Anyway.
So innovation in accessibility is the next one. There's so many categories, which is crazy because last year I had such a critical eye on the Game Awards because it was just like, and the winner for innovation and accessibility is Dragon Age. Okay, and here's the next trailer. And I was like, really? So I wonder if that's going to be the same again this year. We shall see. But having so many categories, and most of these won't even be announced at the Game Awards show. Okay. A lot of them are actually pre-announced before the show because there are so many of them, and they want to just show you a bunch of trailers because that's what they get paid for.
Right.
Anyway, innovation in accessibility. We've got Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We've got Diablo 4. We've got Dragon Age Veilguard. We've got Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and we've got Star Wars Outlaws. This year, I'm a little bit behind on the accessibility options, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's not necessarily something that I look into, because it's not something that, like, for instance, with Helldivers 2, for instance, like, they had a lot of audio accessibility things immediately, right? You got, like, the robot reading everything on the page at maximum volume that you had to turn off.
Yeah.
But, like, aside from that, I couldn't tell you. I mean, like, in my mind, the only current game that like has like novel accessibility that works for me is Fortnite, actually, with the audio stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I was looking at that, the whole wheel around you with like audio indicators.
You can play the game completely mute and still win.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, like, what have they added in games like Call of Duty, Diablo? I mean, like, aside from, colorblind things, subtitling.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Guess neither of us really know.
Not a clue. I mean, is it just... Because it shouldn't just be like, is this game easy? Like, does it have an easy mode? Can I be invulnerable?
Yeah, right.
It
Yeah,
should not be
like
that. That's
it
pander.
needs to
Yeah,
be how can you adapt the game's functions in a way that suits people with various disabilities. Like, yeah, how
exactly.
can you help things be more visible, more audio
Yeah.
available, and things like that.
It's how do you bring
Um,
people up to a point where they can play the game? Not how can you bring the game down so like
yeah,
even it's bad for even them? Because like
yeah.
back in the early 2000s, there was somebody without any hands, like getting was it like Call of Duty? He was like kicking ass in Call of Duty without any hands. So like
hmm
it's that's a whole different thing, obviously, and it's
How
not
do you
even
bring everyone up to the equal level playing field?
exactly.
Is the always the question.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so then games for impact, which is usually games that tackle maybe environmental issues or make you think on a wider scale about environment or global issues and stuff. So we
Hmm.
have Neva again, Life is Strange, Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Tales of Kenzera, haven't heard of that one, and Closer the Distance.
So Tales of Kenzara is a studio that I believe they shut down earlier this year.
Oof.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it didn't receive very well. I believe it's
Oh, wait, I recognize the
yeah.
name
Mm-hmm.
actually. Was it somebody to sports was
Uh,
involved in it?
maybe they were involved in it, but I think it was like set in like Africa or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like I remember it being bankrolled by somebody in sports who wanted to bankroll it because it had that perspective that, and they were like, yeah, I wanted to. Uh, oh no, maybe it's something else I was thinking of.
Hmm.
It was someone who was known for being the voice actor for Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins as the game's
Okay.
creative lead, and he founded the studio. So maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Right. Well, I wonder who's going to be there to receive the award if they win, considering the fact that the studio doesn't exist anymore.
Hmm. Well, I
Mhm.
guess maybe he will be.
Maybe,
Maybe
maybe.
it'll be him. Um, Interesting though.
He's
That
like, I told you so.
But I mean, it's something we've said for a while, right? Like games exploring different cultures that have like a breadth of mythology of their own and like
mhm.
history. Is something that's always welcome to see, but it's hard to get right a lot of the
Yeah,
time
would
and be
that be
appealing.
impactful? I mean, like, is
Mm-hmm.
Senua's Saga necessarily impact? I know that like the first one was trying to highlight aspects of mental illness to a degree, so I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's like, impactful. Although like there was nuance to it. It was like, hey, by the way, she's mentally ill. So like, is that
Mm-hmm.
impact? I mean, like it's more like it's something you take away instead of like a lesson that's stamped to your forehead. So I wonder.
Mm.
As far as impactful here, I don't really know.
Well, I guess we've got nothing to say, so we should shut up and move on.
I can't do it, Leah. I
I
can't do
can't do it. I'm
it.
on the internet. I cannot shut up and move on. Best community support is the next category. We've got
Okay.
Baldur's Gate 3. They have fully embraced mods, pretty much,
Oh
haven't they? And
yes.
just allowed people to go ham, which as they should. And as such, have seen their highest player base in even since launch. They've
Hmm.
got more players now than they did at launch, which is
Wait,
really
really?
absurd to think. Yeah, it's
That's
crazy. Probably one of the only games ever that has ever achieved that, to have more games a year after launch than it does during launch itself. Um, Crazy. So we've got Baldur's Gate 3, we've got Final Fantasy 14, we've got Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, of course, the consistent underdog that always seems to pop up in these discussions for the past 5 years. But yeah, the comeback story of No Man's Sky. I don't know, for this one, it's a hard one. I'd probably go with Final Fantasy 14 again. I think they just they deliver consistently
yeah.
with community offerings.
With 14, sure. I mean, like they have the monthly updates and stuff like that. And generally, whatever things like World of Warcraft do, they've been decent as well with their community streams and their events and such as well. And they have many of them.
Yeah, and they do a
Um,
lot of like real life community based
exactly.
offerings as well, which is cool. But
Yeah.
then Baldur's Gate 3, when it comes down to the user experience and the way that they keep the game interesting for people, and their general opinions, like qualities in the gaming industry, I think
Yeah.
deserves a mention, because that, whilst it isn't the direct reason for community support, that is really important. Like that, their continued outreach and outspokenness about various crap things in the gaming industry. They have gone to
True.
award shows. They've spoken repetitively about how it's a failure of studios, as we've spoken about on GWIG before. It's a failure of the studios to have so many layoffs, and that's an internal problem. They've been very
Hmm.
outspoken about this stuff, and the fact that they have, that is in its own way community support. Like, they're supporting the gaming
I
community.
agree.
They
Yeah.
are on the side of the gamers, which I think is an interesting sort of side to think about.
I honestly would have put Cult of the Lamb in here instead of
Really?
Helldivers 2. They've
They
done
got
a
none last year. Did
lot
they
of
not win last
stuff.
year?
For community support?
Yeah. I'm gonna Google it. Oh no, community support last year was Baldur's Gate 3 as well.
Nice. Yeah, because Cult of the Lamb this year, they officiated 2 weddings.
Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that actually. I saw, but then the thing is, the only reason I know about that is because I saw a campaign on Blue Sky or something where people were like, they've been snubbed for this award, and this is what we did this year.
Yeah, they
Which
made
tells me
their
a
own
lot.
post, but we've been snubbed. But I remember seeing the tweets
Yeah.
about the weddings before that snub post like a couple months ago.
Right, that was
Yeah.
the first time I heard of it, so I was like, well, I guess maybe it wasn't an effective marketing tool if I hadn't heard of it until the complaint.
Imagine marrying like 4 people for marketing.
Yeah, that is nuts though.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Right, most anticipated game: Death Stranding 2 on the beach, Ghosts of Yote.
Okay.
Yotai?
Don't care. Don't care
Don't care.
about Death Stranding or Yote. Keep going.
Really? Okay. Get Grand Theft Auto 6.
Don't care.
Metroid Prime 4.
Don't care.
And I think I found the one he cares about, guys. It's Monster Hunter Wilds.
Let's go, baby!
Yeah! No Silk Song in this category.
I think everyone's gonna die
waiting.
waiting, is why.
Yeah, everyone's like, it's been 84 years. So most anticipated game, I think it's going to be GTA or Monster Hunter. For me, at least, GTA I think will win the public vote.
For sure.
Arguably the most anticipated game.
How many views did it have? Like with its announcement? Like
and
ridiculous.
we'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got more to talk about with that, and of course, this isn't the whole of GWIG, by the way. This is a big episode because we've got even more news. We're just going through the nominations for the Game Awards, and it's taken us like an hour and a.
This is just the beginning.
The beginning.
Yes.
So that's most anticipated game. Content creator of the year. Honestly, a bunch of names I don't recognize, and that's not on them. That's on me.
Yeah, I think Queso is like
yesterday.
Of all these people here, Queso is
He's
the only
one.
Yeah, he's like top 4 most subs at the moment.
But it's Ilo Juan, Techno Gamers, Typical Gamer, and Usada Pecora. And I don't.
I love how the name Typical Gamer is like, you know, the handle they chose, and they're now at the tippity top of the iceberg with Typical Gamer.
I know. Lots of gamer mentions. Juan seems to have 4.2 million followers on Twitch. He's a Spanish.
Jeez.
It makes sense. The Spanish community is, we've spoken about it before, nuts. That's so huge. It looks like Usada Pecora is a VTuber. Yeah. Interesting. So there's your content creator nomination to the year. Best esports game: Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, 2 Valve games, League of Legends, Mobile Legends Bang Bang. That must be specifically an Eastern popular game.
It must be.
Heard of it.
Let's look it up. It must be a clone of something else. I'm gonna bet.
Mobile Legends Bang Bang.
Mobile Legends.
It's a ByteDance subsidiary. Yes, it's mostly prominently in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Released in 2016. Been out for a while.
It looks like a League of Legends clone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Straight up UI and everything else.
That's funny. 5v5 action gameplay. All right, well, and then also Valorant. That's your final nomination. I gotta say, after Worlds, I'm gonna go with League of Legends this year. It's been. What do you think of like? Maybe it's unfair because I'm thinking of best esports experience in general, not just the game itself, which is what the nomination's for.
I'm just showing chat real quick. This is League of Legends. This is Summoner's Rift shamelessly.
Yeah, it really is.
Shamelessly. Because it's like you said, it's a ByteDance game. I mean, you can't really sue them.
Why?
Because it's made in China. You can't stop them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? You can't stop?
You can't stop? Who are you gonna sue? Who are you gonna sue? You can't. Ow!
Riot are huge. How can they not? Surely they've got something to say about it. That's wild, though. That is wild. Yeah, League of Legends has got my vote, mostly because I'm just playing it a lot at the moment, and I do have a deep appreciation for, despite the community being the worst, the game itself is very good.
Right.
Objectively, opinion. Sorry, I just think it's fantastic. I also love Valorant. But yeah, Dota 2 has similarities, of course, to League. But
Yeah. Apparently, Riot has sued them twice.
oh,
Yeah.
just unsuccessfully. I guess it all comes down to when you have a clone of something, what have you actually copyrighted, or what can you legally argue is yours about this that they have like taken it? You can have a direct copy of something, but you have to legally have an argument for it, right?
All I
Like,
have in my mind is just like that meme with a first time, but it's Dota 2, like looking at League of Legends. Like
yeah. And next year, I imagine we might see Deadlock on there, which would be interesting. I
Oh
haven't played Deadlock
yeah.
in a couple months now, but
Same. I don't know why I dropped it, but like I was having so much fun, and then like I
yeah,
was like, you know,
time to play something else.
yeah, it's just me in a nutshell. I get
Yeah.
obsessed with something, and then it's gone.
I put that energy. I have one multiplayer game at a time, so at the moment it's League.
Right.
Right, best esports athlete. Sorry,
Outfit.
33. What does 33 play? Dota. Right, that makes sense. Alexib. Is that? I'm gonna go with CS. Pro gamer. Yep, CS. Chovy. Is Chovy Valorant or is he League? I think he might be League. He did, but what is
It's
he?
kind of cool how they're using like their handles as well as their like actual names, doxing them a tiny bit, but yeah.
Well, I guess they're sort of known, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's League. I should have known that. Faker, obviously,
I think
League.
Faker's one.
Zywu. I mean, Faker kind of just always has it in the bag. Let's
Right.
face it. He's just insane. And the fact that he's still going is unbelievable. And we've got a Valorant and a CS nom as well. So quite a good spread there, actually, of different esports games nominees, which is quite nice. And then we got best esports team as the final category. We've got Billy Gaming. They do League. We've got Gen G, who also for their League offering. Navi for the Counter-Strike. T1 for League. And Liquid for Dota. Interesting, no Valorant.
Yeah.
Esport team
it's
nominees
just
here.
League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and Dota.
In Dota, yeah. I don't know who I'd even go for, to be honest. I mean, T1 obviously world champs for League. They're kind of an obvious one, but I think Billy, even Gen G, both of those were like more up and coming this year. So,
Would you think that because they won, they've kind of proven that they're the best, or would it also be like community outreach, community support? How big is their base?
Yeah, last year, with Valorant, for example, the winning Valorant team and then dissolved like 2 months later. Had to sell all the players pretty much. So I guess there is a lot to be said about how they treat their players and their community. And with T1, they very much, there's been a bit of drama recently actually with T1 because Zeus, who was one of their main players this year, was he left, which was like very surprising. T1 seemed to be caught aback by this as well. They wanted to keep the whole team together, which in esports is kind of rare. Like to keep a whole roster together, especially in 2024, is really rare. So they wanted to keep the whole gang together, but Zeus ended up moving to a different thing, and there was like a lot of drama over like why, and contractual drama and like how much money do they offer and la la la.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, it seems like because most of T1 have decided to stick together, that is a good sign, right? That like they're quite happy there. They must be treated pretty well and that kind of thing. So yeah, you'd hope so.
I wish I knew more about esports stuff. It's not even about not caring. It's the same with like football. Like my family is like all into football or soccer, if you want to call it that. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I mean, I can go to a game and be into it, but like as far as following it, as far as like knowing who to follow and what or why, for some reason there's just this massive barrier that just prevents me from seeing it.
You can only pay attention to so much, right? Like there's only so much you can actually pay attention to. The other reason I feel like I know as much about esports as I do is because a lot of my friends are into it. So they talk about it a lot and I just go, I just absorb it. And I'm like, okay. And I am interested in it because of that. So it does help when you have, it helps when you've got friends, Myre. It helps when you have friends with a lot of varied interests because it's really easy, I think, especially in gaming, to pigeonhole yourself into having friends that just like what you like. And you just play similar games with them all the time, and you don't really ever reach out of that. It's like it's just comfortable. But in having like those different interests, kind of broaden your perspective a bit.
That's a fair point. I don't think I've ever had any friends who have been into sports of any kind at all.
And it helps, like, because if you care about a person, you care about their passion. So if they want to talk to you for a little bit about their sport, you'd be like, okay, I'll listen. And then you probably learn a bit that you didn't know,
That's fair.
which is nice. Right, that was all the Game Awards stuff. Should we move on to the actual news?
All right, yeah, news. We do that sometimes here. We talk about that. That was the Game Awards. Okay, you get to choose. What news in the list of news do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Steam and their changes to the way that they are handling season passes being promoted on the Steam platform.
All right.
And I think this is a very interesting topic.
Yeah, this is a huge one. Because it's kind of a massive win here for just like I guess user. What's the term here? Like it's a very consumer friendly move here that Steam is making. As being the kingpin that they are for the games industry, being able to set down these rules and tell people, hey, you can't do this, otherwise you're gonna get like financial like punishment is massive, because like generally speaking, people will do the shadiest shit and then like keep doing it because they get off scot-free regardless of like player sentiment and this, that, the other. But this is Valve, this is Gaben, from his ivory tower going, no. And I love it.
Halt.
Yes. Halt.
Yes, this is it's a little late, I think, but I also think it has to have arrived when it did because of the development of the gaming industry, the way that Steam has been utilized as a platform to push these products, to push these DLCs, these season passes. It has ramped up quite significantly over the last 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not new in the last 2 years before anyone jumps on that. It's just we've seen an uptick largely. So we had to have a response at some point, because with that uptick, there's also been abuse of that system, where it's the uncertainty. I've argued about it time and time again. We've spoken about it time and time again on GWIG about how absolutely absurd it is that we have just no standard. There's no standard set for a lot of the offerings on Steam these days when it comes to alphas, betas, early access, DLCs, season passes, all these things that you're offered by these gaming companies that just don't seem to have any oversight.
Yeah.
So this is Steam coming in and offering that oversight. And at first, when I heard this news, I was looking into it and I was like, is this just the result of regulation? Is this the result of like governance that's like coming in for example, the way that a lot of games had to change because of regional gambling laws and things like that? So at first I was like, is this just a result of that? And like, it's not really good guy Steam. It's just, they're forced into doing this. But no,
Right.
This is just off of Steam's back. Steam have, Valve as Steam have decided that they need to have oversight. And thank God, quite frankly, because what they've implemented is very good. And this line in particular, I love. And that is, this is a disclaimer to developers. If you aren't ready to clearly communicate about the content included in each DLC and when each DLC will be ready for launch, you shouldn't offer a season pass on Steam.
It's beautiful.
That sounds, yeah, I know it is. And it sounds more damning than it is. Realistically, it's not damning. It's just a guideline. Like, you shouldn't do this because you are not ready. But also, we can read into it and be like, yeah, you shouldn't. Like, of course. But yeah, this is effectively, they have said, they are redefining what season pass is. And I don't think Steam are actually redefining it. They've had to put this into words, but it's been redefined by the industry over the last few years.
Yeah.
But what they've said is, because a season pass is effectively a DLC pre-purchase, which is what we've argued about so many times here, creating a season pass on Steam has many of the considerations and restrictions as outlined in the documentation on pre-purchases. For these reasons, we will not offer a season pass, except in a few rare cases with partners with which we have had a well-established relationship and that have a proven track record on Steam.
So for their season pass guidelines here, they say that when a season pass is made available for purchase on Steam, it must include the following information. So without this, then essentially that they can't offer a season pass, otherwise they get in trouble. So a complete list of all DLC included in that pass. So of course it doesn't have to be like super in detail if you want to like have surprises, but it has to say like a gun, a map. This, you can't just say, oh, season pass. The second is a basic description of the content that's included in each DLC. For example, the first content might be the Glitterlands expansion, new area to explore, 2 new weapons, etc. It's not required for the DLC to have a final name at the launch of the season pass. The information about the content in the DLC doesn't need to be detailed. So just simply that. You have to at least have that down. You have to have a promise. It can't just be, oh, you're buying the promise of a promise. anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then thirdly, you need to have an expected release date for each DLC. And it has to be a quarter and a year. So for instance, January to March 2025, or a season and a year is acceptable. So of course, a date that's more precise is also fine. So you can have like, June the 1st and stuff. And so yeah, if you don't have any of those, you're in trouble. And
Yeah,
it's
you can't do
amazing.
it.
Yeah.
And it's absurd that it's gone on for so long that, it's been abused for this long that this has to be implemented.
Yeah.
They are allowed to delay or cancel a DLC. If they cancel a DLC, they must offer refunds. Again, standard ethical behavior to offer refunds for a cancelled thing that you never get in the first place. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, this now has to be regulated by the platform because people can't be trusted. And you're allowed to delay a DLC for up to 3 months before you must refund. So it's so. I'm glad that someone involved obviously is looking into this and it's been like, right, this needs to be sorted out because this is ridiculous. So I'm so glad someone is enforcing this. And Valve are truly, they are in such a unique position here to be those trailblazers and to really put into place these policies and to really dictate the future of consumer experiences in gaming.
Mhm.
Valve are, in my view, one of the only people with their finger really on the button, the people who can affect change massively, and quite frankly, one of the only companies in gaming that I would trust to do it in interest of the gamers. So I'm so glad that I feel like they are, and I don't want to like paint them as like being these like incredible good guys. I think at the end of the day,
You better be careful with that, yeah.
exactly. We don't put people on pedestals here, but I
Yeah.
do think in terms of the gaming industry, they are our best, like our best bastion really
Right.
for fairness as gamers. So thank God. And we see it time and time again. We see it with the way they offered the Steam Deck and the way you can crack the Steam Deck and they don't care. They're like, yeah, do it. Like,
Mhm.
you want to play World of Warcraft on your Steam Deck? Go for it, man. Like, we're not gonna stop you. Like, you do what you want.
So far within the games industry, I do feel as if like there are two Keanu Reeves-esque like like entities out there, right? One of them is Steam, and the other one currently is Larian. And of course, BioShock had that crown before. Larian's the new BioShock, or BioWare even. But yeah, I mean, aside from those two, is there another one? I can't think of one off the top of my head that like is consumer focused, is customer friendly, is like thinking about the right thing to do as opposed to what is the right thing to do for the most money per se.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, Remedy, I think, they're inoffensive. Remedy haven't done anything that would make people be like, like they've just produced some solid titles. But there's a lot of people who can produce solid titles and be inoffensive, but not necessarily be like sparkling good guys.
It's one thing to make a good game and keep your head down and just make good games.
Exactly.
It's another thing to like actually try and like use that limelight to make a statement per se about like what is best, you know?
Yeah, and when it comes to like large companies with their hands in the money pot for gaming, I think, yeah, just thank God Valve are the people who do seem to have that control right now. Because like I said, they can shape the next 10 years of gaming if they really want to. They're in a position where they have the trust of the public largely. They have the platform, they've got the monopoly, they seem to have the right ethics largely so far from what we've seen.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is very consumer forward. And yeah, thank God. We'll see what else they do. Because they're usually pretty hands off, Steam, generally speaking. Largely, they are hands off. And they're not to say they're not perfect by any means. There's a lot of abuse that is rampant in like communities on Steam that does go unchecked. But I don't think it's really hard to navigate that, I think, without imposing your will upon
because a lot of that's a free speech issue as well, and it's always such a muddy line to draw with that. I mean, I don't want to bring it up for Twitter and stuff like that, but man, I don't use that platform anymore, and it's not really because of anything aside from the fact that it's just not a nice place to be anymore.
Yeah, because free speech is used as a shield a lot of the time for just horrendous behavior.
And a lot of people who are now on Banter are making up for lost time, that's for sure, I can tell you.
Oh, yes. But anyway, that's a different discussion. Yeah, so cool. Shout out to Steam. So in a related news as well, interestingly, 2K have actually removed their PC launcher. They've sunset their software on PC, which means you can now launch games like Civ 5 and XCOM 2 and Mafia direct from Steam.
Oh, nice.
So they've actually completely removed that launcher, and that's just another interesting thing. Because launch is the scourge of PC gaming. They became massive. Like, I don't know, 5 years ago, everyone was like, yeah, we should make our own launcher as well.
Yeah.
So you can't just launch a game through the platform you bought it on. Now you've got to go through another login.
So
install
frustrating. And
100%.
why are they doing it? Because they see Steam exists, and obviously they're like, we want to slice of that pie, and of course, you can't really fault somebody for wanting to also make money, right? But it's all about how do you do it and why. Obviously, when Steam came about, it was a launcher and a platform for Valve games, and they just had like the wherewithal and also the bandwidth to be able to host other games too. But like the 2K launcher is only doing 2K games, and you can't really compete. I mean, the Epic Store tried, and I don't really know if there's a way necessarily to do so, to get in there, as it were, in a way that won't inconvenience massively everyone.
What is the consumer benefit to having a launcher? Is it going to enhance the player experience, or is it just going to be another step to frustrate you? And with most of these launchers, they are just another frustrating step, a barrier to play your game.
Right.
There are exceptions. For example, XCOM 2 had, in the launcher itself for 2K, it had mod support functionality, which is something that is an example of a good reason for a launcher. You can modify and adapt the game in a way that is supported and controlled by 2K. Whatever you want to say about controlling mods, I don't care. That's your opinion, your argument. But largely offering that option to mod the game through that. That's kind of worthwhile, right? That would be like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
They have actually, they've thought about that though, and they have had, they've changed things as well to do that. So you can do that now on Epic.
Would you, Leah, like, instead of having a launcher, right? Because there are multiple reasons for why a company would want a launcher, right? One is that, like, okay, this is now a place where they can see all my other games, right? Even though Steam will do that for you anyway. Another is control, right? Another reason is, like, so that they have a list of all their users and they can moderate them and whatever like that according to like what they want, to their whim. And also they can now track their data better or easier, whatever like that too, whatever reasons they have. It's why PSN has been so adamant in doing what it was doing. We covered this last week. But would you rather have to make an account and password for every single game from these companies, these bigger publishers, or use their launcher?
I mean, if it's a case of like two evils of adding an extra step in unnecessarily, the launcher is just that. The launcher is just a vehicle in which you've given them the login information and data at the end of the day. I mean, in my eyes, the only other way I could justify the launcher is if the platform you're playing it on, for example, Steam, is untrustworthy. For example, you want to play a multiplayer game with your friends and the Steam Friends functionality is going down all the time. It doesn't. But that's the reason why launchers are pointless because it works. But if in an imaginary world where the Steam platform wasn't as robust as it is, then you would have an argument for having a launcher with its own friends list where you can grab people and play with them if that other third-party software isn't working correctly. So there are like legitimate reasons for launchers, because you don't have the control over Steam. If Steam decide to remove all friends list functionality for some bizarre reason, as a game, you're suffering, right? Like you have a multiplayer game and suddenly people can't play with each other. So there are like control reasons based on that and just practicality of like being able to offer your gamers a more streamlined experience because you can control their multiplayer experience, for example. But most of the time, that isn't how it ends up. And with the world we're in 2024, Steam is very consistent. Like, you don't really have issues with that. So it's kind of a moot point.
I don't know. I don't really see it ever happening, but I think 5 years down the line, something I would like to see would be for every other third party like launcher to kind of just go away and Steam to kind of offer almost like a social media platform, but for these companies, right? So
like a hub for like a 2K hub on Steam, and they can. That would be very cool.
That they can curate.
And usually I would be very cautious of a company overseeing things like that. And I think other companies for sure will be cautious.
100%.
But when it comes to Valve, I would maybe be a bit more trusting in like their ability to remain quite objective and hands off and not be like trying to penny pinch these companies for everything they're worth. Not that I'm like, oh, the poor companies are being, they're being taken for everything they're worth by Valve. Oh my god. But to be fair about it and offer a place without it being about just give me money.
Yeah.
That would be quite cool. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a random thing in my head. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that's
good
cool. I mean, like, I hope to see more launchers also go away because nobody wants them. Nobody really wants them. I don't know a single person who's like, oh
No.
yay, goody, another launcher. I mean, some games exist that do have their own like singular games and stuff, and you know, for instance, Star Citizen like has its own launcher. But and
Some things have, Tarkov had its own
mhm,
launcher. It made sense. It wasn't offered on Steam. Like,
mhm,
yeah, Final Fantasy 14 has its own launcher as
yeah.
well. It annoys me. I launch it through Steam and then I've got to just find my login for that every single time because it never, no matter how many times you tick the thing that says remember me, it's never going to remember you. It drives me insane. And I know, before I say anything, I know there's a program I can install that just logs me in automatically, but I'm sick of it.
I think my least favorite thing about the Final Fantasy launcher is the fact that, like, you know, most other things out there, like most other Windows chat boxes and everything else, like the cursor will blink when it's active. With Final Fantasy, it doesn't. And so every now and then, if you're ever watching a Final Fantasy stream, you will see somebody type their password into a chat. And it's hilarious. And you can tell every single time because, like, why are they saying that word? Oh.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah, well, there we go. That is 2K removing their launcher, sunsetting it completely, and just going through Steam from now on for most of their games, or Epic, indeed, for some of their modded games. Another interesting thing, Xbox quietly, very quietly, in fact, announced that they are removing their avatar system. So their avatar editor app, which like genuinely was a real big upgrade from their old avatar system.
Okay.
It was announced or brought out in 2018. And it's going to be refunding all Avatar purchases, which, maybe I'll get a little refund because I think I bought some Halo-based Avatar stuff at one point. They're refunding all Avatar purchases and stopping support for those avatars. And that is a real shame because Xbox avatars were a staple part of like the Xbox experience from like the 360 onwards.
Yeah, it's kind of the end of an era, honestly.
Yeah, it was one thing they did that Sony never bothered to do. A real personal experience. It's something those avatars were utilized in games like Doritos Crash Course, which this is just a confirmation it's never coming back, is it? Yeah, so they are removing it because they want to because of low engagement, so people weren't engaging with the avatar. Because why would you? Once you've made your avatar, you've not really got much usage for it, I guess, and there's not really any reason to change it.
Profile picture you make, and what's the point of doing anything else, honestly?
It's a very cool system, but like just didn't really have much value, I suppose. But also they wanted to shift a focus toward delivering other player experiences. So that is that's an interesting one to me. I'm thinking like, how much resource did that really take to keep up? Like, was that really such a drain that you were having to remove it completely?
It almost seems like more effort to remove it, honestly. Like, yeah. But I guess they didn't have any plans to do anything with it after the fact. And if they always had plans to refund the purchases, you may as well do it now instead of it randomly having some sort of resurgence and having to owe more money later, I guess. But yeah, I hope Nintendo never does that to Mii's. Although, like, you know, street passing and stuff has kind of been like a thing of the past, honestly. They didn't bring it back for the Switch, right? Like, you know what a street pass is, right?
Yeah, where you go past someone and then you share their
right? They show up in your world, and like, you know, that was always fun. It was always a reason to go out for me because I'm anyway.
I mean, it was popular. Every time I went to a convention, there was always people talking about how many street pass swaps they'd had.
Exactly.
Like
and every now and then, like, you'd street pass with a Nintendo dev, and they have the gold pants. And yeah, it was just a cool thing.
A reason to care about your avatar, really, because there just isn't any. Like, and they talk about how players can still personalize their experience with dynamic backgrounds, profile colors, and other options.
Yeah.
Wow.
To be fair, I think one of the issues here is the fact that, like, this, I'm looking at like this thumbnail right now for this avatar, and you know, as cute as it is, it's also generic. You know what I mean? Like, this is the same stuff your mom on WhatsApp would post.
There wasn't enough options to make it worthwhile. It is like the things you'd get on your phone, though.
Exactly.
Whatever they are. Yeah, you're right.
So because of that, I feel like it's not really hitting the right target demographic anymore.
And they just didn't do anything with them. Well, that's really it, isn't it? But yeah, that's Xbox. Removing avatars from your Xbox. You can't make an avatar anymore.
Womp womp.
They are reportedly working on a portable device though for Xbox-based games, but so are Sony.
That's right, I saw this. It's a bit of a short one, but apparently Sony is reportedly working on a PS5 portable. We don't really have any idea what it's going to be called or anything else, but essentially it's going to be a device that...
The PSV2.
V2, oh my god. But yeah, I mean, speaking of the Vita, I mean, that didn't necessarily release to much of a fanfare, did it? Like, they ceased all, like, support for it very soon after it came out.
It was a cult classic, though. I mean, I've seen a lot of arguments that Vita was one of the only truly portable games consoles. You know, the Steam Deck is huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's massive. The Vita was like a really good size, and the PSP as well. They had the PSP.
Yeah. PSP was amazing. I played Monster Hunter on that thing. I've lost so many hours on the PSP. Don't get me started. But like,
couldn't you like watch the mini discs as well on the Vita? It was like, I'm sure you could do like some really.
Could you watch the mini discs?
I'm sure you could watch films on the Vita. I might be misremembering.
You can watch films.
My brother had one.
They used to like, they used to sell UMDs, which was the format, not CDs, but UMDs, Ultra Mini Discs.
That's what I was thinking of.
And like Game and HMV, they'd sell movies and stuff. But
yeah.
I think the biggest issue that they had was the fact that their memory card was proprietary. Biggest pain in the ass. So yeah.
I was thinking about this earlier actually. So just tangent. I was in B&Q and I was looking at some power tools, and I was just looking at the fact that Bosch offer all of their stuff is now utilized. You use it with one battery. There's one battery type across every tool they have, and I just thought that was just really interesting to me because it seems to be the way things are at the moment. Is everything is proprietary, like you say. Like everything is, you need a very specific cable that only we sell, or you need a specific battery for this thing because we want you to buy more of this one battery.
Hate it.
So it's nice when companies offer that option.
You can thank the EU because that's the only reason why that's happening.
Really?
Yeah, I mean that's why
like USB-C and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, otherwise there's a reason why they're doing it, right? So that you're walled into their one piece of crap.
Yeah, and you have to spend more money buying that proprietary piece because you can't get generic or whatever else.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, but with the reports here for this new thing, we don't really know what it is, but it will be able to play PS5 games. So,
I do love this quote from Phil Spencer, though, because it says, in June, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer added fuel to those rumors of an Xbox portable console by directly saying, I think we should have a handheld too. I like my ROG Ally, my Lenovo Legion Go, my Steam Deck. Just like, shit, I need to reference all of them now, otherwise someone's going to come for me.
Right.
Let me just list off, there's no way anybody plays every single handheld. I know for a fact, because I had like 2 or 3 of them, and I gave them away, because I was like, I only need one. Like, the Steam Deck is enough. I don't need multiple things. But yeah.
But when it comes down to it, do we need a PS5 portable? A Sony portable? Because like right now, the ones that are the giants, the more PC related ones, the Lenovo, the Steam Deck and stuff, they are universal. They play anything. You know, as long as you can connect it to it, you can play it. It's just a handheld device that's, you know, like
except for PlayStation exclusives, right?
I suppose.
That's like probably the only thing.
Yeah. Would there be a way to do that?
At this point, there is enough PlayStation exclusives to make that a viable purchase. Let's face it.
Right. That's fair. And
like, I think once upon a time, like for example, an Xbox machine that is just for Xbox exclusive games, pointless. Absolutely pointless. There's just not enough on offer to make that even worth attempting, quite frankly.
Yeah.
PlayStation, however, they do have such an offering of exclusive games that it might work out.
Honestly, this would maybe perhaps incentivize them making a new Gravity Rush game, because obviously, like, what's the incentive of a handheld console, right? Like, generally speaking, most handhelds have some gimmick attached to them, be it like a simple gyroscope so you can move the, you know, your controller and stuff, or your handheld so like the world moves around. Gravity Rush was one of those games on the Vita, like you when you turned like the Vita upside down, like, you know, the character would move and that kind of stuff. So maybe perhaps yeah, like they could bring that back. There'd be a reason to do so.
Flagship game for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
It'd be sick. It's like my brother's favorite game. He won't shut up about it, so I had to bring it up.
I mean, I think, quite frankly, there's quite a good market for handheld gaming machines, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. I see that being frequently a big contender. So
It's more the
I think
choice
that's
aspect to it. And a PS5 portable just kind of reminds me of like the PSVR situation. There's so much choice for VR. And then like Sony just happens to have their own thing as well, just in case you want it. Yeah. It's just a matter of like how much support is the device that they're going to have. And I guess it's Sony, so they'll have enough. Yeah.
All right, next topic.
Next topic.
Okay, let's talk about GTA 6.
Oh, yeah.
I like this one. It's just a little thing, really. It's nothing major. But this is the result of a culture that really is defined by content creators. And generally, I saw it a lot in like the Taylor Swift fandom. But you also see it in like the Call of Duty Zombies fandom. Any place that has a cult following where people are really, really into whatever it is that they're following, conspiracy theories abound. Suddenly, every trailer has hidden messages. Suddenly, every single post online is telling you something. Why have they used that number there? Why that emoji specifically? What if they used this emoji on this date and this emoji on this date? Did that mean something? Suddenly, a whole realm, a whole era of conspiracy theory is born. And this happened with GTA 6. There was the trailer 2 announcement was thought to be made on the 22nd of November. Because of a theory that fans had latched onto about the moon.
Okay.
So it's been a year since their first trailer, which is interesting. And obviously, it is genuinely one of the most anticipated games of all time. I comfortably say at this point. But because people were proven right, or so they thought, about the moon theory, which is that Rockstar releasing a GTA Online image that included the moon in it at a certain state of the moon cycle.
Right.
So last year, the moon was in the waning gibbous cycle.
Literal lunatics, by the way.
Literal lunatics. And then they theorized that the next waning gibbous, there would be an announcement or a trailer or something.
Right.
And there was. The trailer 1 corresponded with the next waning gibbous. So recently they posted a picture with a waxing gibbous moon, or maybe it was another waning gibbous, I don't remember, but just another lunar thing, and people were anticipating the 22nd, which would be the next cycle date for that particular part of the cycle, would give another trailer, and it didn't. So everyone was like, oh, what? Everyone got so excited, so hyped up about it, and it came to nothing.
That's ridiculous.
There's a lot of that though these days.
I do love it, and and a lot of these companies, they do feed into it a lot. Like Elite Dangerous is notorious for this. Like in a trailer, they would have like a sound effect that you play in a spectrometer, and then you'd be able to like see the coordinates for a place you have to go into the game, and then you can see like a puzzle. And yeah, it exists, and I think
it's sick.
Yeah, I live for the people who live for it, because I wouldn't do it, but I love like like being there for the end, for the payoff, because there's so much that goes into it, and so much that you could be wrong about. I mean, like, who watches the trailer and goes, waning gibbous? Why is that your first thing?
It's so interesting though. I do like that. It does encourage this sort of like critical thinking almost. The detective work, and I do enjoy that. I think it's really cool to get people interested. However, what does go wrong usually is people get very upset when, of course, the theory ends up being correct, and then they get mad at Rockstar. I can't believe you wouldn't release a trailer when you promised, and it's like, no, you just assumed.
When you promised.
Yeah. And that seems to be the case over and over again.
Man.
But fans hyping themselves up, ourselves, because it's not, a lot of us can be involved. Just to be disappointed. What's new? What's new? Let's hope that isn't a sign of the actual game itself. Getting all hyped up just to be disappointed.
Oh no. Speaking of, the Sonic movie 3 has been unveiled. Shadow the Hedgehog has been revealed in his dark glory, and he's being voiced by Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly the best choice they probably could have made.
Amazing. I love it so much. So the trailer just came out, and like, I haven't seen I don't watch movie trailers, but like, I saw this, and I was like, well, if Shadow is there, he has to be in his original. Yes, there he is, with his gun and everything. It's amazing. He's got his gun.
That's trending on Twitter. He has a gun.
Yeah. It's amazing. I haven't seen any of the Sonic movies. I talked about this before, but I think if I do, I'm gonna have to like sit down and watch like all these like adaptations, like Detective Pikachu as well. I haven't seen that either. Like,
Oh, Detective Pikachu was pretty good.
yeah.
I like that one. Yeah, I mean, I think John Wick, John Wick Shadow makes sense, but Keanu Reeves as Shadow makes sense as well because Shadow is so fetishized.
Oh, no.
Shadow was a sexual awakening for many people for some bizarre reason. Who knows? It's just a badass kind of emo boy, Shadow the Hedgehog. Don't look at me like that. It's true, okay? There's a lot of people who are very into Shadow the Hedgehog. That's all I'm going to say. If you thought the Shigo awakening was one thing, this is something else entirely.
Nothing personnel, kid.
And there you go. So that's all I'm gonna say. Just to say, I played Sonic Adventure 2 at a formative age.
That explains so much. Anyway.
Hey, everyone's allowed to be okay with Rouge the Bat, but apparently Shadow the Hedgehog is just a step too far. What is that problem?
What about Chaos Control is exciting to you? Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. All right. What's up next?
I think we got one last thing.
Oh yeah. We went from the bottom to the top. Yeah. So, in more Sony news, and to some people, this is kind of seen as a bad thing, and I'm not really too sure exactly why. Apart from it's never great when one company controls like too much of anything. But Sony is currently in talks to purchase Elden Ring's publisher, by the name of Kadokawa. So Kadokawa, I believe, is the publisher. Sony already like owns directly like a certain percentage of From Software, but now they're actually going to go ahead and like try and purchase Kadokawa, and a lot of people are quite upset about this.
Very interesting. I wonder what the upset is. Is it only to do with the whole like monopoly?
I guess it's monopoly. It's Sony control. It's that like.
I can't imagine Sony fans are upset about this.
Oh, at all. This is huge news for Sony fans. Sony fans are freaking through the moon, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, Xbox have bought how many studios? Over the last few years, it's absurd. We've Activision Blizzard, Bethesda alone, just those two. That's huge. So I don't think this is crazy to think about, but yeah, I mean, where's the limit when it comes to like independent studios? Where do we see the death of independence as these just massive corporations just play a game of who they can acquire as quickly as possible?
Oh, this would mean that Sony would also own Delicious in Dungeon as well.
And what do they do?
Oh, that's an anime. It's just one that came out this year that's pretty good.
Oh, it's an anime?
Yeah, I love it.
I thought that was a publisher or something.
No. Delicious in Dungeon. Yeah. I'm just scrolling through it now, but yeah, it does seem as if like Sony's looking to get this thing, man. And is it a bad thing necessarily? Yeah.
Well, you just look at Sony and the way that a lot of their IPs are not particularly merchandised, or like they don't really go too far outside of the box that they're in, being a PlayStation exclusive game. You don't see much in the way of branching out at this point in time anyway. When we're looking at things like the Fallout TV show, Arcane, and when we're looking at there are some branching out like Lego Horizon and stuff like that. There are some testing of the waters, but there's been no major, as far as I can remember at least, cultural impact from anything that is not a game within the Sony sphere.
Right.
Like, if they're like consolidating all of these brands, these like studios and stuff, do they have bigger plans to make it more than just the game, to like franchise it out and like make it something, a whole experience? Or because that seems like a bit of a wasted opportunity to me when you've got these like huge games like Elden Ring or whatever under your sleeve, but you're not maybe I mean, of course, I don't want to sound like I'm just advocating here for like shrewd capitalistic like, well, you should bleed it dry like they've done with Star Wars and like Marvel and stuff like that, like squeeze it for everything it's worth and like get the last drop of blood from this franchise. But at the same time, there are unexplored opportunities, I think, to really harness the fandoms that have been created in a lot of these PlayStation exclusives, and I just feel like they're probably a little bit untapped, and maybe there's more consumers can gain from them.
That's fair. I mean, so Sony already owns 2% in Kadokawa apparently. But now they kind of want everything, I guess, or to own a majority share. I think that like Tencent also has a stake in Kadokawa as well, which is interesting. But this would make them the majority.
Buy Tencent out, or they're just trying to be a majority shareholder.
Yeah, but the thing is, right? Like Sony has declined to comment, and Kadokawa said it cannot comment. So we don't necessarily know how much of this is true. But this is a Reuters like exclusive, apparently.
Very interesting. I suppose we shall see where that goes. Put it in the list of things to follow in the future.
All right.
To follow up on.
Yes, the tab to keep tabs on.
The tab. And I think that is all the gaming news we have for today.
All right.
We don't have any tech news either because
it was a long one.
It's 2.5 hours of GWIG. Woo! Well, take us away, man.
What? That's your job. You do this all the time.
It's your job.
All right. Okay.
You never do it.
All right. I'll try. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching Gamers Week in Gaming. This has been episode 29. You can catch us on Spotify, on GWIG. We're now on YouTube on GWIG. I believe it's GWIG TV, but we can't be youtube.com/GWIG TV until we get like 1,000 subscribers. So subscribe. What else? You can find us on Twitch as well, on twitch.tv/Myre at 3 p.m. UTC on Tuesdays now, right? Is this now a thing, Tuesdays?
No, unless you want it to be a thing.
I honestly don't mind. Honestly, Tuesdays is a better news day because like on Mondays, like, you know, it's the weekend. Yeah. So you can find us on on Tuesdays. It's a Tuesday news day here. Now on twitch./Myre. And you can find Leah at twitch.tv/Leah. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. That's it from me, and that's it from Leah. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.